From pretty much the present, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you a week of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2012. Because these podcasts are many years old, any offers or information included in the podcast may not be valid unless they're currently reflected on our Great Detectives of Old Time Radio website at greatdetectives.net. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13 at greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783, and become one of our friends over on Facebook, facebook.com/radio detectives. Well, this episode is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. And I especially want to thank Harry today for sending along a nice contribution, and we'll be sending along access to our premium site. Well, now it's time for today's episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator, and it's called The Schemers. And this time there are no lost episodes to report in between shows, so let's just go ahead and take a listen.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
The best time to die, folks, is in your own good time. But try arguing with a bullet.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. Not every client you get is a socially upright citizen. But then the only society of angels is up in heaven. Mere mortals are honorable only to a degree. The almighty dollar being what it is. The gent who plopped beside me on the Fifth Avenue bus didn't look too kosher to me. And it wasn't only because of the scar on his cheek. I know Scarface judges. Just call it my hunch. I transferred my wallet to the side pocket furthest from him.
I'm not a dip friend.
Second story?
Wrong again.
Carnival show with Allison as a sideline? Now, don't tell me you're in some honest trade.
I am.
No, this is.
You better yourself every day, friend. Begin bad, end good. That's life, no?
No comment. So tell me.
You think I sat next to you on purpose?
I can tell when a guy does. You got me sized up by now?
Not quite.
Well, am I hired or no?
First, consider what I say. I murdered a man an hour ago.
Oh, it's a fine day for it.
I shot him. Now I've got him in a sack.
Busy, little bee.
I had the best of motives.
That ought to reassure the corpse.
You're a confidential investigator.
Guilty.
Your license makes you a technical arm of the law, sworn to uphold it.
You've been reading my wall literature.
It's your duty to detain and arrest me.
I'm not the obliging type. Sorry.
I'm getting off the bus. Getting off!
Adios, amigo. Weird? Not so. I got my anonymous friend's feeler right off. Was I really confidential, he wanted to find out. Find out before he dared to hire me. His story was a fake. Done to see if I'd grab him and yell police. I'd be seeing more of him. I got to see him again in a health club and gymnasium while I was working out, shredding stomach fat in a punch bag. My friend showed up to watch me.
Save some of your punch for me, Craig.
Well, back with me again, huh?
Park on the bench here. We'll talk.
Yeah. Well, I'm parked. So?
I'm Moody. Gyp, Moody.
Gyp, huh?
Gyp means I've got gypsy blood.
Oh. You, get rid of that corpse, okay?
It's only kidding you.
You think?
You're for me. You don't run blabbing what you hear.
So glad I passed your test. Now, what's my job?
$200,000 stolen from me 5 years ago. I want to get it back.
Explain.
Johnny Phoenix stole it from me.
Phoenix? Yeah, I dimly recall. A company treasurer or something.
An ex-con I gave a chance to work.
Work at what?
In my company, export-import. Phoenix robbed my safe and blew town.
And got caught.
He was grabbed in Canada, extradited.
And convicted? I'm a little hazy.
Convicted, yeah. But he didn't do time.
He didn't?
Not in jail, I mean. He acted crazy all through the trial, kept screaming about gophers and dragonflies and some dead ant.
An act?
I don't know. He did wear a silver plate in his skull, and a twitch to him that closed one eye every 10 seconds. Anyhow, the judge took notice. Phoenix got a mental test, dementia, something or other, a doctor called it.
Split personality.
Yeah, that. Phoenix was not responsible for his actions.
He went to an asylum.
Riverhead Asylum, upstate. Comes out tomorrow.
Out? Free?
Yeah, it's in the papers. Here. Johnny Phoenix, a Judge Sane, freed on a show cause writ.
Does he still stand trial for the original theft?
No, he isn't the same guy who did the original robbery. So a doctor says. The DA agrees, so does the trial judge. Phoenix is a new man, cured and rehabilitated. Beat that.
The money was never recovered.
Not a dime. I'm out all that. Big dough, $200,000.
No insurance?
I only had a fraction of it insured. Be there at Riverhead when Phoenix gets out. Stay with him. He's got the dough salted away. When he goes for it, you go for him. I'll give you 5%.
That's $10,000.
If money. If you get my 200 back.
I was in the Riverhead Railroad Station, upstate, right with Johnny Phoenix. He'd been freed about an hour earlier. I kept out of sight while we waited for the train. A good-looking guy, Phoenix. Bushy hair with nature's own Marcel in it. Spare, broad-shouldered, a good clothes horse when he could get properly togged out. No pallor to his skin, you'd never know he'd been confined. Well, the train rolled in, and I watched Phoenix climb aboard. When I tried to do likewise, I found opposition.
One moment, sir.
Hey, let go of my arm.
My authority.
A bag.
I'm Sims of the State Police.
In civvies?
Yeah, I'm off duty. However, you're under arrest.
For what?
Molestation. A woman complained.
Molestation, meaning mashing?
That's right. Her description of the man fits you.
Well, I'd laugh, but right now I haven't got a sense of humor.
Getting tough won't help.
I'm a policeman myself. I'll show you credentials.
Yeah, you do all that. At the station house.
Are we going through with this, boss?
I have authority to shoot a resistor.
Put your gun away. I've missed my train anyhow.
Well, there's a train every 2 hours.
This train was special. Let's go see your complainant. The complainant looked like she'd had trouble with mashers since pigtail days. Blonde, cream-cheeked, born to wear silk.
Ma'am, is this the man who annoyed you?
No, they have a superficial likeness, but my annoyer was oilier, grosser, and on his chin here, a cleft.
Thanks for the exoneration, doll.
Followed me around the station, talking at me in some strange tongue.
Esperanto. Can I go now?
Sorry if I caused you any inconvenience.
Oh, it was nothing at all. I'm only out a probably lousy $10,000. Back at the Riverhead station, again waiting for a train out, I tumbled to a masher mistaken identity routine I'd been caught up in. I watched for Golden Girl to come back to the station. When she did, I really molested her. Hello, doll.
Doll, are you out of your mind?
I'm mad over you.
Mad? Oh, you really mean mad. I'd like to apologize for...
Don't bother, just explain it.
My arm, please, you're bruising it.
All right, talk.
Well, the circumstances are plain. Here in the station before, a man...
An oily fellow, my size, shape, wearing my clothes, as you told State Trooper Sims. Only oily, your guy. Therefore, not me.
An honest mistake?
Dishonest, baby.
Why, what do you mean?
The only person molested in this depot today was me. And you engineered it deliberately.
Deliberately? Why, that's absurd.
To keep me off the train, Johnny Phoenix left Riverhead on.
I can't understand a word you're saying.
You've got me grabbing your arm again, baby. Who are you? I can be gentlemanly, I can be very rough. Well, do we wrestle?
All right. I'm Rita Phoenix.
Sister or wife?
Wife.
Our train. We'll travel together, baby. Closer than Siamese twins. You made me lose Phoenix, but you're going to help me find him again. You're going to lead me back to him. Come on. Trains don't wait. On the train, we sat as close as the law allowed. I took the precaution of searching Rita's handbag. The ivory-handled gun surprised me just a little bit.
I won it in a raffle. Does that explain it?
Okay if I borrow it, baby?
Can I stop you? I want a drink.
So do I.
Can't I even go to the club car without you?
We're inseparable, remember?
Boy, can I get a hate on you.
Inseparable. Only thing I was wishing aloud. We were going to be separated. By no choice of mine. It happened in the club car while Golden Girl was watering her tonsils with Smirnoff vodka. The fellow flopped on the lounge beside it. With a beauty like Rita available, the dope chose to sit on my side. I knew why in less than a minute. I knew by the gun in my ribs.
Do I have to spell it out, Craig?
G-U-N. Gun.
I'm glad you're quick on the think.
The feel.
Now, this is where you leave Rita Phoenix. You've been hogging her company a long while now.
You really expect me to obey?
I know what you're thinking. A crowded club car, people all around us, conductors and stewards, but it won't help you, Craig.
You'd have to be pretty desperate to shoot.
You'd be crazy to tempt me. Dough, Craig. I drool when I think of the amount of dough at stake.
All right. What's your play?
That's better. The station up ahead, Sooner Falls. We roll into it exactly 3:47. That's in 4 minutes. You're getting off the train.
Alone?
Yeah. At the station, someone's waiting for you. Friend of mine.
You plan far ahead, huh?
I've got a knack for detail.
How do I come out in all this?
You just lose a client and an opportunity, no other harm done.
I lose Rita.
Yeah.
I lose her, and she's your pigeon.
Look, let's not stretch this conversation. 3 minutes now, and we stop. Let's start moving to where you can get off.
In Sooner Falls, I watched the train continue on to New York. The someone waiting to greet me was right on hand as promised.
Hiya, pal.
Put his face between two loaves of bread, and you could call it a giant meat burger.
Hey, what are you staring at my kisser for?
It's ugly.
Now, is that nice? My car's there.
Is this ride necessary?
Yeah, can be. Set it up.
Can be, huh?
Oh, did I just leak his name to you?
No. Canby's an old acquaintance.
Oh.
What makes this station so lonesome?
No people. Sooner Falls is a hick town. Nobody in it.
Why are you in it?
For my asthma. I got asthma bad. This burger's pollen-free. So let's ride now, huh?
Where will we ride to?
Around?
Just around?
Yeah. You're worrying. Don't. This rot on you don't mean nothing. No holes in you, so don't worry, huh? My orders is just to stall around with you, see the sights, run you into 6 o'clock, and then give you the heave.
Run me into 6 o'clock. Until Rita and Canby land in New York, get off that train and get lost together. Canby doesn't want me phoning ahead.
Hop in, pal.
Delighted to. I'd love to tour Sooner Falls. Hey, let go my throat when your lovely face turns from beet red to purple. Let go. It took a long time throttling. And when he finally dropped, I fell on his gun. And just lay there. I left my meat-faced friend in a semi-conscious stupor and hurried into a pay station telephone. Operator, get me long distance. New York City. Police headquarters. Person to person, reverse charges. I want to talk to Lieutenant Trav Rogers. Finally, at long last, I arrived in New York. I'd sure missed a lot of trains. Trav Rogers had come through for me at his end.
The man and woman you described on the telephone got off the train here in New York. They went off in separate directions.
You had them shadowed?
I did.
Where'd they go to?
The lady's registered at the Parkfront Hotel as Rita Manning.
A phony name. She's Rita Phoenix. How about Canby?
He checked in at the Kilgore Hotel.
Kilgore? New name to me.
Over in Brooklyn Heights.
Oh. Rita, the Parkfront Hotel. Canby, the Kilgore. Anything else you can enlighten me on?
I think so. That story of Johnny Phoenix you told me over the long-distance phone. The original theft from your client,
Jip Moody.
The subsequent trial of Phoenix, his insane behavior in court, and the resultant confinement in an asylum.
Etc. and so forth. What can you add to it?
I found a discrepancy in your tale.
What?
The alleged $200,000 Phoenix stole.
Alleged?
In my review of the record of the case, no such sum. Phoenix was booked and tried for the theft of exactly $50,000.
For a fact?
I have a duplicate of the district attorney's file, if you'd care to see it.
I'll take your word. Quite a gap between $200,000 and $50,000.
A gap that can buy Boku cherries for the wine. Your client magnified the figure to fire your zeal as a retriever?
No, Moody's queer, but not like that. His 200,000 figure has some other significance. What? I can't know until I put the question to Moody. Phoenix never disgorged any of the loot?
Not a kopeck.
What did the police do about it? About trying to recover the money from Phoenix, I mean.
Oh, the usual devices and pressures. All we accomplished was a show put on by Phoenix.
He acted nuts.
Climbed the walls, screaming he was a chimpanzee in a jungle.
After Phoenix's asylum confinement, what police activity about the money was there?
The obvious.
A police plant right on the asylum? Hoping to catch Phoenix in a rational moment? Win Phoenix's confidence?
Yeah. Quite an assignment for a cop. Feigning insanity. We had to change our plants every 10 days. The sheer wear and tear.
The plant began to wonder about himself, huh? Was he or wasn't he Napoleon Bonaparte?
Environment, they say, molds the personality.
Ha ha. Trav, as usual, you've been a big help.
Mm-hmm. Write a letter of commendation to my superiors.
My client, Moody, didn't exactly like explaining the discrepancy between $50,000 and $200,000.
$200,000 was stolen from me.
You're still avoiding my question. Moody, I want to know. Why did you only charge Phoenix with stealing a measly $50,000 in your original police complaint?
I had, private reasons.
Now, if I'm to come through for you, I can't be in the dark.
Well, the bulk of the money was a sum I couldn't afford to broadcast publicly.
Whatever that means. You're in export-import, huh?
Yeah, export-import.
Export-import is a pretty broad heading. It could cover a lot of operations. Above board and underhanded. Legitimate goods and contraband of some kind.
Let it go at that.
Cash deals in the dark. No record of it on the books.
Stop making out a case.
A fraud against the government. Tax evasion.
Keep it up, we'll have a parting of the ways. I'm not on trial with you, Craig.
I like to know the character of my client.
I'm honest and dishonest. What's so unusual about that? Every second guy you meet.
Yeah, the buck for its own sake. No wonder the old world's in a spin.
Phoenix took advantage of my sensitive situation.
He knew in advance you could never prosecute him for the whole sum of money he stole, that you couldn't come into the courts with clean hands.
Yeah, that was Phoenix's gimmick. You going to use any of this against me?
Ask me that when we're counting your $200,000.
Now, what answer... Oh, I get it. When you're counting your 5% fee, you mean? Sure. You like money like everybody else.
Now, tell me something. Who is Canby?
I don't know. Never heard the name.
An alias, maybe. Now, you recognize his description? Well-built, a little on the short side. 5'7", say. Brown hair, brown eyes, natty dresser.
The description means absolutely nothing to me.
That's funny. Here's a guy who knows you well enough to be scrambling for your money.
Well, it's a mystery to me. Leave a side of beef exposed and the jackals come around.
Jackals and jackasses. Okay, I'll circulate around.
Craig,
What?
the way you cross-examined me before, like a cop, not a confidential operator on my payroll.
So?
Don't double-cross me.
Or?
I'm not stupid, and I'm not helpless.
Put it on the line, Moody.
Be a cop with me, after all? I'll kill you.
I'm sure you could.
Well,
Well, what?
reassure me that you're still confidential.
I did that, I'd only be lying.
Meaning,
I'm not working for you anymore.
you're off the case?
I didn't say that.
Then it is a double-cross.
Clean hands. I only like clients with clean hands. So long, Moody.
Craig, stay out of my business.
Your kind of business, Moody, is public business. Oh, they happen like that. Case where you dump a client midstream. Where from confidential cop you change to Boy Scout. You're working without fee in the public weal and welfare. Great. Only doesn't buy any groceries. At the Kilgore Hotel over in Brooklyn Heights, I got Canby's room number from the desk clerk. I also got an advance hint on how frantic it could get up in Canby's room. I spied the desk clerk on the telephone a second after I started for the staircase. The desk clerk tipping Canby off to my visit. There'd be a gun upstairs waiting to greet me. What kind of a hotel was it? It was that kind of a hotel. In the hall outside Canby's room, I had a scheme to outmaneuver Canby's gun. Canby? Frank Canby?
Yeah, what is it?
Linen service. I got your fresh linen.
Just a minute.
I flattened against the side wall of the hall, out of line of fire, and waited for Canby to open the door.
Come right in.
Hey! My turn to shoot now. In his room, Canby revived before the police ambulance I'd phoned for showed up.
You think fast, Craig.
I have to keep alive.
How bad?
Thigh wound. I only shot to immobilize you.
Very considerate.
You'll live for newer and bigger swindles. When you're free again, that is.
You got no charge against me.
The Sullivan Law, that gun you carry. And armed assault on me.
Going to pour it on, huh?
Depends, maybe, on how you cooperate.
Cooperate how?
Frank talk.
Ask me.
Where do you come in on Moody's missing $200,000?
I forced myself in.
Meaning?
Well, I'm out of left field. I don't know Moody and I don't know Phoenix. But I do know about the dough, you understand me?
I think so. You freelance in crime. You're a fly. Honey anywhere draws you.
That's it, yeah.
Got a prison record?
So far, no.
Been lucky, huh?
Until you.
Who tried to detain me for you in Sooner Falls?
Hutch,
Who is he?
the next pug. Blackballed out of boxing for throwing fights. He hires out to me. You got away from him, huh?
I out-wrestled him.
I was afraid of that. Afraid you'd get the phone ahead to New York. Hutch is a pin brain.
You hired him. You should have knocked me off on that train.
Yeah, I second guess it that way, too. Only,
Only?
murder. I shy away from it.
You shot at me out in the hall.
I shot to nick you, slow you up. Well, what are we waiting for?
Police ambulance. Snake eyes for you, Canby. You're out of the game. Pass the dice. With Canby out of the game, I set out to eliminate another player. Rita. I found her in the dining room of the Parkfront Hotel. She didn't bat an eyelash when I joined her at the table, like she was immune to surprise.
You,
Me. Oh, what's good?
Chicken fricassee. What's new?
Canby's in the clink.
Thanks.
For what?
Removing Canby. He's been giving me a bad time.
Asking you where he can find Johnny Phoenix?
Asking me?
Where can I find Johnny Phoenix?
I'm deaf.
Stupid.
Maybe.
You're crazy if you keep dreaming of that money.
I've stopped dreaming.
Meaning?
My husband gave me the brush. Johnny wants a divorce.
What does Johnny say about the hidden loot?
Not a word to me. What do you say about the loot?
Meaning?
Us?
No deal. I get the money, I kiss it once.
Then?
Hand it over to the authorities to be held in escrow for Gyp Moody. Now, where do I find Johnny Phoenix?
Expect me to tell you?
You might, seeing Johnny's read you out of his life.
742 Bond Street, a rooming house. Johnny's holed up there. When you surprise him, tell him you're there by courtesy of Rita. Rita without love.
At 742 Bond Street, I finally got back with Johnny Phoenix. Funny thing, though, Phoenix didn't seem to care a bit.
The money, Craig, I don't want it.
Because keeping it is too hard?
No, the fellow who stole it, I'm no longer him. I've had therapy. I've got a different focus now. Whole new plan for living.
You sound like a walking testimonial for prison psychiatry.
I feel lighter. I don't walk, I bounce. You know what I've done these 2 days I've been free?
What?
Read books, gone to church, looked through the one ad.
Hooray for the new man. So where's the dough hidden?
Buried in an empty lot in Long Island. Town named Fullerton, where I grew up as a kid.
I'll drive you there. Let's go. In Fullerton, we ran into a surprise. No empty lot.
I don't recognize the setting.
You've been away 5 years. Just what's different?
Well, what you see, the house standing there, that Cape Cod.
You say the house there was built on the empty lot you buried the money in?
Yeah, the exact spot. There are markers around. I recognize that clump of trees there. I counted 20 paces north and 2 paces east. Then I buried the money.
That would put the money smack in the middle of the foundation of the house.
What'll we do now?
How deep did you dig 5 years ago?
6 feet.
In building the house, an excavation of at least 12 feet was made.
Meaning, the money was exposed to the builder.
Meaning? You wait here. I'm going to make some inquiries inside the house.
Yeah, but what possible good?
Inquiries inside the house. Inquiries around Fullerton, generally. Then some research into police files. I'm curious as to why a house was built on that exact spot. Badly chosen location, in a lowland where rains create a swampland. And with the nearest town neighbor east, west, north, and south, at least 200 yards away. Wait here, Phoenix. I made my inquiries, nosed around, did my research. The following day, I dropped in to see Trev Rogers to tell him who to go arrest.
I'm to arrest a homeowner in a town on Long Island called Fullerton?
That's right.
A homeowner named Cy Cannaday?
Cy Cannaday, alias Joe Califf. The name falls on deaf ears, huh?
Should I know it?
A cop should. I could send you pouring through police files on Johnny Phoenix.
Spare me the toil.
Police headquarters assigned stool pigeons and plants to the asylum Phoenix was confined in.
Yes?
I have the names of the miscellaneous and sundry plants and stoolies here. Abrams, Tyler, Wilson, Mackenzie, Califf. Is it beginning to dawn?
Yes, Califf. Joe Califf, a professional stool pigeon the department employed years ago.
A stool pigeon who spent time in a prison asylum with Johnny Phoenix. Time enough to pump Phoenix and get himself a road map to a bonanza.
Double-crossed the police department.
You always take that chance when you engage stool pigeons. It's a calculated risk. Califf dug up the money in Fullerton, then had a contractor build him a house right over the exact spot for him.
A weird device, kind of? The house?
Califf's calculated risk. To make the quest for the money look hopeless. The money was lost to the ironies in a housing excavation. He never thought anybody would be shrewd enough to look behind his alias of Cannaday, respectable homeowner and family man, at this late date.
But you did.
I might not have. All the time I was making inquiries, I was sure I was wasting time. Cases, Trav, sometimes hang on that slim a thread. So, make the arrest.
You have been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, The Schemers, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled The Man Who Wanted to Be Guilty, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
What did the man want to be guilty of? Murder, of course. And he discovered that all you had to do to accomplish that was to kill someone. But he had a little trouble. Listen and find out about it, Good night, folks. See you next week.
The National Broadcasting Company has just brought you William Gargan, starring as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Featured in the role of Rita was Terry Keane. Don Pardo speaking.
It's another exciting Dragnet adventure tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, I definitely, this was a pretty clever solution by Barrie Craig to a fairly shrewd criminal. So hats off to him on the nice solution here. This episode also did a good job showing Craig's overall sense of ethics. Well, unfortunately, we do have some lost episodes coming up before we get to next week's show. But we will be back next Monday with another episode of Barrie Craig. And starting a week from Tuesday, we begin our 3-week run with Glenn Ford as Christopher London. And then after that, we'll begin our look at Poirot on Old Time Radio. You'll definitely want to listen to that. You can also, we do a weekly Dragnet podcast, and you can subscribe over at radiodragnet.com. And the Old Time Radio Superman show is in the midst of an action-packed serial you can catch up over at laserandsword.com. Well, that will do it for today. Well, today's program is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. Now, I especially want to say thank you to Eric, who sends along a nice donation and will be sending along access to our premium site, as we do with all tips of $7 or more. Well, today's episode, Candy Matson, we mentioned that the episode that aired last week was Candy's last case. So the question is, well, why are we doing Candy Matson this week? Well, when Candy's last case aired, it was considered basically end of the line for the show. They did not have any expectation that the program was going to be back. San Francisco radio origination's pretty much going away. But NBC did have interest in bringing Candy Matson to a national broadcast. So a new audition was proposed. The audition is called the Allison Gray case. And just so, anybody confused, this was actually based on a script, Candy Matson script, from 1949, from November 19th, 1949. So technically occurred before Candy's last case. So Candy and Lieutenant Mallard aren't married in this episode. And probably if the series actually did end up airing, there would have had to be a decision as to how to handle that. Most likely they would have ended up with a lot of the backstory, including Candy's last case, not being considered, as that ending kind of put a kibosh on her private detective career. But this is a new Hollywood origination. Candy gets a new supporting cast, including Tudor Owen as Rembrandt Watson. And I mentioned at the beginning of the series that the program was influenced by Pat Novak for Hire, which of course featured Tudor Owen as the sidekick, Jocko Madigan. That influence continued. Anyway, this was recorded and never aired on September the 21st, 1952, and it's called The Allison Gray Case.
Hello, Yukon 38309. Yes, this is Candy Matson. Yes, yes, this is Candy Matson.
Oh, Miss Madison, I've been trying to get in touch with you the past 2 days.
Well, I've been out of town. Just who is this speaking?
Mrs. Allison Gray. You may have heard of my husband.
The famous industrialist? Who hasn't heard of him?
You've got to help me, Miss Madison. I'm desperate.
Well, you sound it. What seems to be wrong, Mrs. Gray?
I understand you do work of a confidential nature.
You understand correctly.
Can you drop out to see me, Miss Madison? Right away.
Well, you'll have to give me some idea of what it's all about, Mrs. Gray. There are certain types of cases I refuse to accept.
Do I have to tell you on the phone?
If we're going to do business, yes.
Well, it's my husband. For the past month, I felt that he's been gradually losing his mind.
What?
It's horrible. But yesterday, he disappeared completely.
You don't have to say another word, Mrs. Gray. I'll be right out.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Candy Madsen, Yukon 38309.
That's the way it usually goes. I live in a penthouse on Telegraph Hill in San Francisco. Inside, there's a phone. It's listed, and it rings. Sometimes I wish it wasn't and didn't. But the phone is listed thusly, Candy Matson, private investigator. And that's how I make my living. Do you remember that old gag about what's black and white and red all over? Yeah, a newspaper. Well, because of that telephone call from Mrs. Allison Gray, I had a switch. I had my palm red and got black and blue all over. And for good measure, I uncovered 2 very dead corpses along the way. I got the address of the Allison Grays out on Broadway in the Valley of Wealth, and that's where I went. As I pulled up at the front door, I looked for the bell, but there was none. Nothing but a huge knocker looking like it weighed about 10 tons. I whacked it a couple of times and thought the house would fall off its foundations.
Oui, mademoiselle?
Oh, oui. Je suis ici pour un rendezvous avec Madame Gray.
Oh, parlez-vous français, mademoiselle?
Oui. Lowell High School style.
Entrez, s'il vous plaît, mademoiselle.
Oui.
C'est un bon jeu, n'est-ce pas?
Oh, oui. I'll bet you run out before I do.
You can say that again.
Oh, you speak English?
Yeah, San Francisco style. You Miss Matson?
That's right.
Miss Gray's expecting you. You'll find her in the library.
Don't overdo it, Clyde. Say, what kind of a place is this anyway?
You'll find out. Right on in, please.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, Miss Madison?
Yes, Mrs. Gray.
Do come in. My, how attractive you are. I expected a severe type of woman. Sit down, won't you, please?
Well, thank you.
You've got to help me, Miss Matson. My whole life has been turned into a phantasmagoria.
Oh, that's a good word. Tell me more about the phantasmagoria.
My husband and I have been married 30 years. All that time he's been kind, considerate, generous.
And with money yet. That makes him quite a man.
But in business, he's just the opposite. He's ruthless. And I'm afraid he's made a good many enemies.
Well, I guess you have to be like that in business if you want to be successful, Mrs. Gray.
I know of at least a half-dozen men who have been led into financial ruin because of my husband's operations.
And this all leads to...
Just this. I believe that his business tactics finally began to prey on his mind. For the past month, he's looked as though he were suffering from shock or concussion.
Well, maybe that's it.
No, Miss Madson. I was a nurse before I married Mr. Gray. I know the symptoms. My husband, I'm sure, is on the edge of a complete mental collapse. If it hasn't happened already.
Well, just how do I fit into the picture?
Find him, please. Then perhaps we can get to the root of all the trouble. I'd die if anything happened to him.
You should know his habits. Can't you find him, Mrs. Gray?
Can an amateur pianist do the work of a Rubinstein? No, Miss Matson. You're a professional sleuth. That's why I called you.
Okay. You've got yourself a girl. As of now, I'm on the payroll.
What is your fee, Miss Matson?
$200 in advance, $50 a day in expenses.
That's reasonable. I'll make out a check for you right away.
Fine.
Oh, hello, Auntie. Excuse me. Didn't know you had company.
Perfectly all right, Robert. May I present my nephew, Robert Warnicki. This is Miss Candy Matson.
How do you do?
Delighted to know you. Matson, eh? That name is familiar. Yes, you're a lady reporter or something of the sort, aren't you?
No, I'm afraid not, Mr. Warnicki.
Let the girl alone, Robert. She's here on business. Here you are, Miss Matson.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Well, I'd better be getting along. You'll hear from me soon. Oh, goodbye, Mr. Warnicki. I'll be seeing you.
Yes, I have a hunch you most certainly will.
I left the house, got in my car, and as I drove along, I did some thinking. It was a strange thing. Here was a family with all the loot in the world, but unhappy. It didn't make sense. Suddenly I realized I wasn't far from the studios of an old friend of mine, Rembrandt Watson, a darn good photographer, now that he's given up the grape, the kind that comes in bottles. As luck would have it, he was in and gave me a greeting worthy of the prodigal son.
Candy, you minx. Where on earth have you been, Dove?
Minx and Dove, you make me feel as if I should be molting. What do you mean, where have I been?
Just what the question implies, dear. Where have you been?
Up in Eureka on a case.
Oh, and how did you find Eureka?
With radar. You've never seen such fog.
Oh.
Well, why this deep concern about me whereabouts?
I've been trying to get in touch with you. I've some business for you, dear.
No, thanks, Rembrandt. I already have some.
Oh, she's an old customer of mine. I've photographed her so often, I know every little wrinkle. I've even given them names.
No, I've told you, Ducky, I couldn't possibly
Her neck has more lines than a California road map.
Rembrandt, for the last time,
Her name is Gray.
What did you say her name was?
Gray, sweet little old fluff, lives out on Broadway.
Mrs. Allison Gray?
Yes, that's the one.
Well, Rembrandt, I just now left her house not more than 10 minutes ago.
Oh, splendid. She got in touch with you. She dropped in my studio several days ago, and I recommended you. Get yourself a fine fat feed, Dove. She can afford it.
Well, do you know anything about the deal?
Only that she's worried about her husband.
That's nothing. I'm worried about mine.
Oh, girl, you're not married.
That's why I'm worried.
You mean you still can't get Lieutenant Mallard to see the light?
Right. Every time we even get near the subject of matrimony, Mallard ducks. Mallard ducks. Okay, I'll leave.
I would if I were you. Mallard ducks. Really? Well, did you accept the case?
I'm afraid I did, Rembrandt.
Then you might be interested in this. Here.
What's this?
A card. You can read.
Yeah. Madame Natasha, palmistry. Telepathy. Sittings by appointment only. What's this all about?
May not have any connection in the least, but it fell out of Mrs. Gray's purse as she left the other afternoon.
Palmistry yet? This gal goes in for wrinkles all over. Rembrandt may sound as though he has bird gravel for brains, but he's been around me long enough to know a lead when he sees one. So I took the card and left. I cut over to Union and down to Kearny Street and then to the Hall of Justice on the corner of Washington. That's where my boy Mallard hangs his hat. Lieutenant Ray Mallard of San Francisco Homicide. A wonderful guy if he'd only swap stars. The one pinned on the inside of his coat for the ones up in the sky.
Well, bust my rank and call me patrolman if it isn't Candy. Hi, you beautiful thing, you.
Well, what have you been doing? Sniffing too much sulfur and molasses?
Oh, merely stating the truth. Gee, you look swell, Candy.
Well, in that case, no comment. I'd better quit while I'm ahead. Well, Foot Flat, what's new?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm liable to lose my job. In the last 24 hours, there's been only one crime reported. Some kid had his bike stolen.
Oh, you can talk to me, Mallard. Was it an inside job?
I don't know. We haven't got anything to go on. But give us another 2 days and we'll bust this bike heist wide open.
Good for you, laddie boy. Now shift your cigar and listen to me.
Okay. Got something?
Well, not yet, but could be. Ever hear of a lady swami known as Madame Natasha? Crystal gazing done cheap?
What does she make like Conan Doyle?
Out on Buchanan near Jackson.
You know her real name?
Nope.
Well, I can't help you then. As long as they keep the crystal gazing down to a soft stare and a low murmur, we don't bother them.
Just thought I'd ask. Know anything about an Allison Gray?
Allison Gray, sure. Charming character. Whole department knows about him. There's nothing we can do about it.
So?
Yeah, so. The biggest crook this side of Jesse James. Jesse did it with a gun. This joker does it with pen and ink. Oh, all very neat and orderly. Can't get a thing on him.
A happy chappy, eh?
Very happy. He's got more guys who hate his... He's very unpopular.
Yeah.
Nobody likes him.
Well, his wife does. She loves him.
Well, that's what wives are for.
That's what I keep telling you.
Now, how did I walk into that one?
Mallard picked up a sheaf of papers and threw it at me. It seems I had scored a point. I ducked out, got in my car, and drove up the hill to my place. I had some phoning to do, and I wanted to do it fast. 3, 8, 6, 2. Begin.
The stars in their firmaments are all masterful. Good afternoon. Madame Natasha speaking.
Good afternoon, Madame. I'm calling for an appointment.
Oh? You were recommended to Madame Natasha?
Yes. I'm from New York. A friend of mine was here last summer. She said you were excellent.
Oh, how nice of her. And what was your friend's name?
Wallace. Mrs. Jennifer Wallace.
I do not seem to recall the name of Wallace. Oh, well. And you are?
Betsy Ross.
Ross. Very well. I can give you a sitting at 9 o'clock this evening, Miss Ross.
Oh, and I'd like to bring a friend along, if I might. A Mr. Turner.
That's a bit out of the ordinary, Miss Ross, but the stars decree. Very well. I will see you both.
That was number 1 call out of the way. Number 2 call was to Rembrandt. He was going to be my Mr. Turner. He's very sharp where photography is concerned, and I wanted him along in case of tricks. He said yes, he'd always wanted his palm bread. So I told him I'd pick him up about 8:30. Then I showered, fixed dinner, and got into an outfit that made me look as mousy as possible. With no lipstick or makeup, and with a pulled-down hat and a dumpy old gown, I achieved the desired effect. Then I got into the car and went over to Rembrandt's place.
I beg your... No subscriptions, thank you. I'm not sending any more boys through Oh, you're a woman, I think.
I'm not only a woman, Rembrandt, I'm Candy.
Heaven preserve us. Did someone throw acid on you or something?
This is my costume.
Halloween isn't until next month, Candy.
I know, but the spooks are here. We're going to see them this evening.
Perhaps so, but the way you look, it's just a matter of who scares whom. Candy, you look hideous.
Well, good. That's just the way I want it.
What's the idea, Dove? I don't get it.
Some of these so-called fortune tellers are real smart cookies, Rembrandt. For obvious reasons, I don't want this gal we're going to visit to know who I am.
Rest assured she won't. Not the way you look.
Am I that convincing, Ducky?
My dear, if I didn't know better, I'd swear you just stepped off a pickle boat.
Fine. That's what I wanted to hear. Come on, Rembrandt. It's time for us to peek into our futures. We got in the car and drove out to Madame Natasha's place on Buchanan Street. It was one of those old 3-story gingerbread houses that still stand in San Francisco. Cornices, gables, carved pillars, ornate handrails leading up the front steps, etc. and etc. I rang the doorbell on the darkened porch and expected to be greeted by Peter Lorre. I wasn't far wrong. Oh.
Good evening. Madame Natasha bids you enter the Temple of the Zodiac.
Yes.
And you are...
Miss Ross, and this is Mr. Turner.
Ah, yes. Madame is expecting you.
Good.
Just follow me, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. This room here. You will be seated, please.
Thank you.
A few brief words of instruction. Madame will be here shortly. At first, do not speak to her. He has been in touch with the outer world in preparation for your visit. He is on a highly sensitive mental plane. The least little noise will cause her great harm. You will remain where you are. Madame will sit at that table over there. She will address you. Once having done so, you may talk to her. In low tones, please. Is this clear?
Yes.
Very well. I shall leave you alone. Remember, let Madame Natasha speak first.
Smells like a mortuary.
Part of the act, Rembrandt. The aroma of flowers all ties in with the supernatural.
I can't understand why we're here, Candy.
Well, I've got to start somewhere, Rembrandt. This was the only thing I had to go on.
Look, dear. There's a light beginning to fade up on the door. Where does it come from?
Oh, I don't know. It's a cute trick, you know that? Oh, better be quiet. I think this is the Madame's entrance cue. Yeah, here she comes.
You are gathered on the threshold of 3 powerful forces. The past, the present, the future. Prepare to travel with me through these 3 elements. The lady's name is Ross. The gentleman's Turner. That is right, is it not? You may speak.
That is correct.
Yes.
We shall commence. Detach yourselves. Think of nothing but the past, your childhood, Your school days, vacations, your misfortunes, your happy hours, your parents. Think. Yes, our thought planes are beginning to meet. Music, stars and music, they guide our lives. Yes, we are meeting.
Look up there, Candy, on the wall, the face of a man.
Someone is about to visit us. Do you feel the presence?
Yes, I do.
I seem to feel it's a relative of yours. Your father, perhaps?
No, it's my Uncle Bart. He used to take me boating.
Yes, Uncle Bart. Now I know.
My word, this is better than home movies.
Fool.
What did you say?
Why, your friend here, he is a scoffer. I cannot go on. I am in terrible mental pain. Please, you must leave now. Immediately.
The National Broadcasting Company is presenting Candy Madsen, Yukon 38309.
It wasn't Rembrandt who had broken the spell. It was that scream and the anguished cry from the other room that did the trick. I would have given my eye teeth to do some snooping, but the lad who showed us in did a very firm reverse and made sure we took a straight line for the front door and out. I heard the lock click behind us, and that was it. We went across the street, got in the car, and took off. The fog was so thick you couldn't see 20 feet in any direction.
Why are you biting your lower lip, Dove? Are you put out with me for being a scoffer?
No, not at you, Rembrandt, but I am put out. That babe's as phony as a $3 bill.
Yes, you and your Uncle Bart, who used to take you boating. Indeed.
That scream and the voice, that's what did it.
Very good, I thought. Sounded almost real.
Oh, it was real, Ducky. Didn't you notice how excited the madame was?
By Jove. I thought you came out of a trance awfully fast.
And what about the vision of dear old Uncle Bart?
Oh, that was rear-view projection, girl. Shot through some very fine cheesecloth to give it a slight distortion.
Well, okay. I'm making another appointment with the madame for tomorrow night. I want to see what's going on behind the scenes.
Where are you going now, Candy?
Home and to bed. I'm tired.
Then let me out on Van Ness Avenue, will you? I'm dickering with a man for a used car.
Oh, well, I'll take you there. What's the place?
Diogenes Anderson, the swapping Swede.
Rembrandt got out at the used car lot, and I went home and had a good night's sleep. I wanted to have all my buttons because there were a lot of angles that needed angling. I awoke in the morning feeling quite fresh and ready for come what may. First thing to come what may was another drive out to the Valley of Wealth to check in with Mrs. Allison Gray. The door opened, but it wasn't Mrs. Gray. It was her nephew, Robert Warnicki.
Oh, Miss Madsen. Come in, won't you? I'm so sorry, but it's the butler's day off.
Oh, what a shame having to strain yourself on that heavy door. Thank you.
Yes. I imagine you want to see my aunt, huh?
Yes, you imagine correctly. Is she in?
No. She left about half an hour ago. Said something about having to see about her hair.
Oh, where'd she leave it?
Oh, very clever, Miss Matson.
What about your uncle, Mr. Gray? Is he here?
Oh. Aren't you the one who's supposed to know where my uncle is?
What do you mean by that?
To repeat, you're very clever, Miss Matson. I have an apology to make to you.
Oh?
Yes, you're not a reporter at all. My aunt corrected my mistake. You're a private detective person.
So who's denying it?
You know, you're very attractive, Miss Madsen. I think I should kiss you.
You what?
I've never kissed a detective.
Oh. Why, you clown. Tell your aunt that'll cost her another $100. I was so mad I boiled over and out the door. I think I drove all the way home and low at 40 miles an hour. I dashed up the stairs in my penthouse and scrubbed my face 3 times. And then I got to thinking how the character looked after he'd kissed me. Lipstick all over his mouth, and I started to laugh. And I stopped laughing. It may have been the most nauseating kiss that man ever bestowed on maid, but certainly stopped me cold. I went over to the phone and called Madame Natasha's Temple of the Zodiac. Come on, answer.
The stars in the firmament are all masterful. Good afternoon.
Is Madame Natasha there?
No. Madame is resting.
Oh, well, would it be possible to make an appointment for this evening?
This evening? Have you been recommended by someone?
Yes, Miss Ruth Burdett.
Burdett? Burdett?
Yes.
Madame Natasha doesn't seem to have a Burdett in the fire.
Oh, she must. Miss Burdett was there only a few weeks ago.
Well, very well. Madame Natasha will see you at 10 o'clock.
That's perfect.
And your name, please?
Taylor. Gargan Taylor. Things were beginning to roll now, and I think I saw the light. And if I was proven to be right, the light wasn't very pleasant. This time I didn't go as the mousy little character. I went as myself. I got in the car and drove out to the Temple of the Zodiac. If it had been dark the night before, it was even darker now, and I couldn't help shivering a bit. I checked my purse. There it was, my little 32, and I felt better. Then I walked up the steps, rang, was shown in by the same gent. He didn't bat an eye, so I knew I wasn't recognized. I went through the same briefing instructions about not talking to the madame until she spoke first and so forth, and the man left. After a moment or two, so did I. Down the hall. Then I found the staircase and rambled up in the semi-darkness. There were 3 rooms on the second floor, none of them disclosing a thing. Besides, the agonized voice that had cried out, "No, no, please don't," seemed to have come from further off. So, on up another flight to the 3rd floor. I opened the first door. Nothing. Then kitty corner and another door. Still nothing. But on the 3rd door... I could see them in the darkness. 2 bodies piled side by side. I went over and lit a match. And there they were. The bodies of Mrs. Allison Gray and that of what obviously must have been her husband, Mr. Gray. Very cold and very dead.
You seem to have found something, Miss Taylor.
Yeah. They look quite natural, don't they?
Madame Natasha is here. She is highly displeased with you.
Yeah, I'll bet. Hiya, madame.
Miss Taylor seems to be the curious type.
You're out of character, Mr. Warnicki. You'd look better without that wig.
I said you were clever, Miss Matson. Too clever. Quick, Walter, get her.
Oh, no, you don't.
Mister, you fool, shoot again.
Candy!
Oh, for Pete's sake, Rembrandt.
Are you all right?
I'm okay. Bullet in the arm, that's all. Where on earth did you come from?
We were in the room across the hall downstairs when we saw you pussyfooting by, so we followed.
We?
Yes, we. Diogenes Anderson and I.
The swapping Swede? What were you 2 doing out here?
Candy girl, how naive you are at times. You told me you were coming back here tonight. You didn't include me in your plan, so that meant you were coming alone. Knowing your propensity for getting into trouble, I felt it incumbent upon me to enlist the aid of my friend Diogenes and come to your assistance.
Well, bully for you, Rembrandt. I'm glad you did. What did you fellows do to these rats?
As we followed you up the stairs, we implemented ourselves with 2 sturdy chairs. Then it happened. They fired, you dashed past us. When those 2 beggars came abreast of us, we merely lowered the boom. Diogenes on one side, I on the other. Oh, my word, we really tagged them, I fear.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it. They've been working overtime. They can use a little deep sleep.
Look, Candy, 2 bodies. Tell me about it.
Well, it's very simple, Mallard, dear. This nephew of Mrs. Gray's at one time had been a ham, a female impersonator in vaudeville. So last year he decided to try to convince his uncle, Mr. Allison Gray, that his days were shortening, that he should atone for his wicked life.
And how'd he go about that?
By telling his uncle he should visit a fortune-teller.
And by a very strange coincidence, the fortune-teller is a nephew, Robert Warnicki.
That's right, the impersonator. The same telling his uncle, and I quote, that he should give all his money away to charities before he died.
And the uncle went for the gag?
Sure. Did you ever know a man like that who didn't want to repent before passing out? It was a cinch. But all the charities were phonies, and all the checks came right back to Robert Warnicki.
Well, I don't see why Warnicki had to go so far as to bump off his uncle and aunt. Did they catch wise to this racket?
Well, that's it exactly, Miller. He was in so deep that he might just as well go all the way and eliminate them.
I see.
You see, the uncle, in the first blush of being a grade-A philanthropist, never questioned the charities which Warnicki suggested.
Yeah, that makes sense.
About a month ago, he started wondering and snooping, and he found out there were no charities. He was like a wild man. That's what made Mrs. Gray think her husband was losing his mind.
Well, if I unloaded that much money through a swindle, I'd have acted crazy, too.
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, the uncle started following Warnicki's movements. Just as he discovered that Warnicki was also Madame Natasha, Warnicki caught wise that his uncle had caught wise. He forced him into the old house on Buchanan.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was frightened. He didn't know how much his aunt knew. So he went back to the Grays' place, told his aunt that he had a tip as to where his uncle was. Naturally, she went along with him. She was still up in the room with her dead husband the first night Rembrandt and I went out there. It was her voice I heard crying, "No, please don't." She'd heard our voices downstairs and tried to make a break. Warnicki's goon boy grabbed her just in time, and after we left, they did away with her, too.
A very unpretty mess.
Yeah.
How did you first tip to Warnicki, Candy?
When he kissed me.
When he what?
Sure he kissed me. I appealed to some men. When I got home, I remembered the way he looked with my lipstick on his mouth. All I had to do was mentally put a wig on the joker, and voila, Madame Natasha.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Aren't you going to kiss me goodnight?
What, and turn into a fortune teller?
Why, you cad.
Come here, cupcake. What's the matter with you?
Good night, Madame Mallard. Well, take a look in the mirror, and then get yourself a crystal ball, and you're in business.
What?
Heard tonight were Helen Cleve as Mrs. Gray, Kurt Martell as the butler, and Earl Lee as Madame Natasha's assistant. Tony Barrett played the dual role of Warnicki and Madame Natasha. Tudor Owen was Rembrandt Watson, and Whitfield Connor was heard as Lieutenant Ray Mallard. The program stars Natalie Masters as Candy and is directed by Monty Masters. The characters in tonight's story were entirely fictitious. Any resemblance to actual people is purely coincidental. And don't forget...
For excitement, fun, and laughs, just dial Candy Matson, Yukon 38309.
Hal Gibney speaking. This has been a presentation of the NBC Program Department in Hollywood.
Welcome back. Well, this was an interesting script here, a lot of fun. It should be noted that I think Tudor Owen turned in a good performance as Rembrandt Watson. It was a little different. Whitfield Connor as Lieutenant Mallard may have been a little harder to get used to. But other than that, a good episode. It was definitely hard times for a radio series. This is one of those shows that may have made it had it been auditioned nationally a few years earlier. Of course, you might be wondering why the audition of Candy Matson here. Radio in decline, television in clear ascendancy. One thing to understand about the era is NBC was really kind of struggling to get and maintain a solid lineup of mystery programs. They had Dragnet and they had Barrie Craig, but throughout the 1950s, they had a lot of series that they ran out there that ended after 26 episodes, or so, occasionally a bit more, but none lasting more than a season, including Dane Clark in Crime and Peter Chambers, and Frank Sinatra, starring in Rocky Fortune, and of course Sidney Greenstreet in Nero Wolfe, and Larry Haynes in Easy Money. And these are just the series that I know of. There may have been a few more. One series that ABC kind of lost was one called The Defense Rest, which starred Mercedes McCambridge, one of radio's great actresses, that you'll get to hear a little bit of Mercedes in our 600th episode special. They recorded the audition for this show with Mercedes McCambridge as a clever crusading defense attorney. NBC recorded the audition in April of 1951, but through some issues, it ended up premiering over ABC in July of 1951. And the series ran for more than a year, and even received sponsors, which was kind of rare, particularly on ABC. And so I think with Candy Matson, it provided them some good opportunities. First, to kind of capture that audience that would like to have a female lead in a crime series such as this. And it would also allow them, quite honestly, to not pay out as much for the series. Compared to many of the big Hollywood stars, such as Sinatra, who would have commanded a higher salary from NBC, Natalie Masters would probably be available relatively cheap. Unfortunately, the series didn't work out for national syndication. Defense Attorney went off the air at the end of 1952, and on television it would not be until 1957 that a female-led crime drama began to air. It was a series called Decoy, starring Beverly Garland. As for Natalie Masters, she was well-liked and had a career in Hollywood, and really she was much more of a character actress. Her main recurring role was on a Betty White series called A Date with the Angels. Other than that, she only ended up playing the same character in a television series 2 or 3 times. Really, what she is remembered for, of course, is her role as Candy Matson. And it certainly remains one of the most unique detective series on radio. There are a lot of series that are fairly good, but also fairly similar to other shows. But Candy Matson is in a class all by herself. A truly wonderful original, and perhaps, other than Pat Novak for Hire, the best product to come out of the San Francisco radio experiment. All right, well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback here. And Eric says, thanks for doing these shows. Love the shows, and they are before my time. Well, thanks a lot, Eric, and they're actually before most of our listeners' time. So, Talia tweets, favorite radio podcast, and a simple great show from off of Podcast Alley. Well, thank you so much for all your comments and support, and that'll do it for today. I mentioned our 600th episode special. That's actually coming up on Saturday, and it's a program called Studio One, a 1-hour drama, and it stars Glenn Ford in The 39 Steps, with Mercedes McCambridge, John Stanley, and an all-star cast. You'll want to be sure to listen to that. And then next Tuesday, Glenn Ford will be our Tuesday program star in The Adventures of Christopher London. And that will run for 3 weeks. And then after that, we'll get to meet Poirot in his old-time radio programs in the 1930s and 40s. So you want to be sure and listen. If you've not already, I'd encourage you to pick up a copy of my ebook, All I Needed to Know I Learned from Columbo. It's a fun book. We take a look at 7 great detectives of radio, television, and literature, including Father Brown, Sherlock Holmes, Nero Wolfe, Columbo, and Monk, as well as Dan Holliday and Boston Blackie. Talk a little bit about their history and provide some thoughts on the life lessons that their careers taught. It's available as a Kindle book for $1.99, and for those of you who have Amazon Prime, you can take advantage of the Kindle Lending Library to check it out for free, though we'll be out of the Lending Library next month. So if you want to avail yourself of that option, good idea to do that in February. All right, well, now it is time for today's episode of Let George Do It. This one is called The Spider and the Fly.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Spider and the Fly, another adventure of George Valentine.
Dear Mr. Valentine, I don't believe in intruding on anyone. I believe that few as they are, the scattered residents of Oakview County are among the nicest people in the world, particularly to me, a newcomer in the past fortnight, a woman alone. But, oh, Mr. Valentine, I also believe that never in my life have I been so frightened and upset as I have by my very next-door neighbors. The strange people who hide behind the walls of the Barker estate. Now, please understand me. I can smile when people refuse to speak, when they put up bars and signs and sick their dogs on me. But when they nearly cause my death because they've torn up my whole road for the sake of secrecy, believe you me, the little worm turns. I'm so mad I could slit a throat from ear to ear. And you're the one who's going to help me to do it.
But Mrs. Ponsonby...
You see, I'll wait in the car. Go on.
Look, we barely got here, and your letter didn't explain
As
what
for directions, that's good enough. Say anything. You'll find out as much as I have. I never actually see them. Go on.
But what's the point of
Why
talking...
should I tell you things when I can show you in 1 minute? Ring the bell. You'll see what kind of a place it is.
Oh, for the love of... All right, Mrs. Ponsonby. Come on, Brooksy.
Sure, George.
You see. Yes, you will.
Oh, I wonder if she ever stops talking.
Ponsonby? Wonder what she wants us to see. It's quite a wall around the place, huh? The Barker estate.
Funny. Not in the country like this.
What do you want?
Oh, just some directions.
There are signs out on the road, aren't there? I'm busy.
We understand there's a little town by the name of Oakview.
There are signs, I said. Excuse me. 6.5 miles, next turn to the right. Only don't go bothering people.
Oh, Brooksy, isn't that a beautiful place in there? Yeah, and look at the roses that
Just a cottage, that's all.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not nearly as gloomy or big as you might expect from the fence and the property.
Town of Oakview is 6.5 miles, next turn to the right. It's a honeymoon cottage. Can I shut the gate now?
Honeymoon? So that's it. Lady, we should be excused.
Honeymooners, of course. No wonder they want privacy.
People want to be left alone. That's all. Now go on, both of you. Get out of here.
All right, don't wave your soup spoon. And you can tell the bashful bride and groom to give you a gold star. You make a real effective guardian of the gate. Peace and goodwill. Goodbye, lady.
Thank you, and goodbye to you. And don't worry, I won't tell anyone anything. I'm not hired help.
What?
Huh?
I said thank you. I am the bride.
Spider, that's what they always called her, and she looks like one, too. That hatchet face, those gawky arms and legs. Name's Emmy.
Just a minute, Mary. You see, Mary's lived around here for years, Mr. Valentine. She's my cook.
Spider. Yes, indeed, the Spider. I remember...
Just a minute, please, both of you. Now, look, I deal in facts, Mrs. Ponsonby, not gossip. Now, you forced me into offending this Emmy, so...
Well, don't you think she's offended me? Didn't she you?
Emmy Gunwaller, that's her name. Though heaven only knows what it is now, calling herself a bride.
Oh, I've seen what he looks like, Mary. He's a short, fat man, about as sour-looking as she is. Groom, can you imagine? I saw him from the road driving back by the pasture and...
For the last time, Mrs. Ponsonby, stop it, please. Now, listen. You're mad at your neighbors because they did something to a road, nearly caused your death, you said.
Well, my car did skid where they'd torn it up.
Only if it's the road I saw coming back from there, I'd say you don't have any kick coming. It's on their property.
Go on, Mary. Tell him about Emmy. Speak your piece. Go on.
Well, that Emmy Gunwaller, that Spider, she owns that Barker estate now. And 10 years ago, young man, she came here absolutely penniless.
All right, so what? Is it any of our business or she...
Absolutely penniless. And from the poor branch of the Barker family. She was taken in by Francis Barker. And the spider was her bosom friend. Yes, she took a spider to her bosom. And I remember...
Slow down, will you?
I remember once hearing that Emmy come right out and say she'd get that house, yes, and the Barker money. And then people wouldn't poke fun at her anymore, being an old maid so ugly. Well, we all thought the laugh would be on Emmy. And she'd finally be thrown out, as she should have been. Because poor little Frances, they said, was going to find herself a husband.
Just a minute,
A
please.
lovely, tall man from England named Frederick. And the spider was soft on him, too, only it was Frances, of course, who won out. But then what? Nobody knows.
All I know is...
What became of Frances and her husband? 10 years later, here's the spider saying she owns the place.
Do you understand? What became of the real owners of that place? What is the secret the ones there now are so careful about? What did the spider Emmy do to that girl who took her in 10 years ago? Well, Mr. Valentine, don't you think somebody should find out?
All right, I'll go calling again, Mrs. Ponsonby. And this time I'll stay long enough to clean up this curiosity.
George, for heaven's sake, here we are, but what can you say? We've got no business intruding on these...
Look, I am here to tell this Emmy woman she'd better look out for her neighbors. Ponsonby and her old cook and probably every other gossip. They're the ones to look out for. I'm here to warn this poor thing and then go on home.
Try to tell them. We don't want any callers, Emmy.
Please, we were very rude before. We only came to apologize. I'm Miss Brooks. This is Mr. Valentine. Your husband here didn't understand. We only wanted...
What? Did you hear it? What? Her husband?
This is Jeffrey Barker. Jeffrey is my cousin.
Oh, I see. Well, some of your neighbors had assumed...
I can imagine. A woman my age and the way I look.
Yeah, and the way I look, I suppose, eh? The short, fat groom. Cousin, I'm a gardener, that's all, Mr. Valentine. A gardener. The poor branch of the family. Oh, how do you do?
Mr. Barker?
Yeah, Barker, huh? The same name as the people who used to own this place, isn't it? Wasn't there a Miss Frances Barker who...
Mr. Valentine, I think you should meet my husband.
Oh, well, really, it isn't necessary.
He hasn't been feeling very well. Oh, yes, it's important you should meet him. I can imagine what's being said. Frederick, where are you?
Frederick?
Yes, dear. Yes, Emmy. Right here. What is it? I'm just smoking in the dark.
Some people, dear. Miss Brooks, Mr. Valentine.
Oh, yes, pleasure, I'm sure.
Hello.
I haven't had a chance to get out much. Such a sinus. Neighbors, are you? Sit down.
I wanted to show you off, darling. The man that I'm hiding. The fly. The fly that I caught. Yes, here we are, the spider and the fly.
Emmy, dear, for heaven's sake.
My husband's name is Frederick Lunsford, from England originally, more than 10 years ago.
Emmy, really, my dear, a total stranger.
Never mind, Mr. Lunsford, I understand. You want us to notice his name. He's the same man who married Frances Barker 10 years ago.
I want you to notice everything. You're here now, the first people. You're inside, and I want you to be satisfied.
Mrs. Lunsford, what do you... Oh.
Yeah. Requiescat in Pace. 1909, 1941.
Frances Barker Lunsford. Tombstone.
Well, a memorial, yes, my first wife.
It's Frances. She's been dead for more than 9 years.
Uh-huh. Well, you know why I'm here, don't you? I came to tell you that your neighbors had hired me to find out your secrets. But you know that already.
I came back and I married my dearest friend's husband. I used to live here and people didn't like me. I used to say horrible things because I didn't like them either. It's 1950, not 40. I used to say I wanted this house. I used to say I wanted Frederick. And now I've got them both because Frances is dead.
Well, look, Mrs. Lunsford, I don't want to know all of your
There's
life.
been no one here in the years between because Frances died just after they were married and Frederick went away. But we met again, he and I, just this spring. Oh, yes, all my secrets, Mr. Valentine, for you to tell that sentimental, gushy snoop who was with you in the car this afternoon. The juicy gossip, all of it, once and for all, because we want to be left alone forever. Forever.
Emmy, you're embarrassing these people. It's absurd. No one need know anything.
Mrs. Lunsford, we certainly won't.
I'm sorry, Freddie.
It's been difficult for Emmy.
Frances was her best friend. I never realized that Emmy even carried a torch for me. Stupid thing, but it's all 10 years ago. We are quite different people. Quite happy, and for heaven's sake, wouldn't somebody like a drink?
You see what a nice fly I caught. Yes, darling, I'm too serious. They'll have a drink with us, and then we'll never be bothered again. We've told all our secrets, haven't we? We can close the gates now.
I say, whatever in the name of...
George, it's Mrs. Ponsonby over here.
Yeah, here we are. What happened?
I didn't even know where I was.
George, help her up. She must have fallen.
Well, what did you do? Follow us over here to snoop some more?
No.
Blood. Look at her cheek.
No, I came to, I tell you. I was lying here.
You what?
I came here to wait for you, but something happened. Something struck me. I opened my eyes, and I was lying there in the road. And I screamed.
The side of your cheek, your jaw.
A car. You must have been hit by a car.
No, it was so dark. I heard a step. I remember that. And then I turned, and I was hit. And that's all I know. I told you things happen here. I told you there's something wrong around this place. It isn't just gossip. Why, where is everyone else? Somebody must have wanted to kill me, Mr. Valentine.
Come on, Mrs. Ponsonby. You might be right. Only that jaw. Let's take you back inside and have it.
George.
Yeah.
They closed the gates right in our face.
We'll never know the secret now, will we? Somebody tried to kill me, but the spider and the fly closed the gate. The spider and the fly.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. You may have been driving a car for years without ever hearing of the SAE. Those letters stand for the Society of Automotive Engineers, men who establish rigid standards for many parts of your car. Take the battery, for example. The Engineering Society requires that all new batteries come up to its standard for a life test, for ampere-hour capacity, and for zero starting ability. Now, if you want a battery that's built for long, powerful service, get an Atlas battery. It surpasses all those requirements set up by the Society of Automotive Engineers. An Atlas heavy-duty battery gives you 31% more starting punch in zero weather, 12% greater capacity to keep your car's electrical equipment working, and it has 89% more life cycles. Why not ask about a new Atlas battery tomorrow? Ask for it where you can get super refined, properly balanced Chevron Supreme gasoline. That's at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. The spider and the fly. Two newlyweds, two honeymooners, two middle-aged people, Emmy and Frederick. The whole country neighborhood of Oakview is curious. Why are these people so unwilling to allow anyone behind the high fence that surrounds their estate? So unwilling right now to assist you when you found Mrs. Ponsonby struck down near the road by the gate? Well, if your name is George Valentine, you don't think much of your gossipy, curious client, but you know it's time you found your own explanation, so you consult the local banker.
They're a strange couple, Mr. Ames.
Yeah, she's a bitter, nasty woman at times, that Emmy. Or used to be. But Spider, it was just a joke.
Well, apparently Emmy's been very badly hurt by the townspeople.
Well, I don't laugh at her. Haven't seen her for years. She's just sort of, left-footed. But a financial fool, I can tell you that much. Doesn't bank here anymore.
Financial fool. She managed to get control of that estate, didn't she?
Yeah. You've been listening to that cousin, Jeffrey Barker. Yeah, he thinks he should have gotten it. Distant relative.
I was thinking about Lunsford. He was Frances' husband. Why didn't he get the estate?
You dig deep just to find out why a woman got hit in the road. Well, you won't find out much. There's nothing wrong at that cottage.
place belonged to Francis Barker. Lunsford inherited the bulk of the estate, but not that house. Now, that went back to the family. Went through several relatives. Finally, this spring, Emmy got it. Now, there was no conniving, just a roundabout family inheritance. Funny part of it is, in the meantime, Lunsford lost most of his money from Francis.
How'd you know that?
Newspapers. He'd been married in between times, you know. Some Spanish girl back east. Had to pay alimony, that's all.
No, I didn't know.
No, not important. Except to show you it's Emmy who's the rich one now, and quite legitimate.
Uh-huh. By the way, how did Francis Barker die back in 1941?
Search me. County clerk says there's no record.
But there's a tombstone out there.
A memorial, that's all. I've seen it. Emmy put that up. Her dearest friend, you know. But Francis died someplace else, I guess. I don't know.
Now, look, Mr. Valentine, I have no reason to investigate.
Sheriff, Mrs. Ponsonby was slugged by somebody out there.
Well, Emmy, husband, gardener, none of them know anything. The most likely thing is it was just some prowler.
Sheriff, do you know how Francis Barker died?
What, that? Way back at... Oh, no. Search me.
Did you know Emmy herself in those days?
Ugly, ineffectual, pathetic little woman. All bark, my friend. Really, no bite.
Have you ever met Lunsford?
Oh, yes. She's down at the river early one morning. Was in swimming. She's lucky to get him. Seems like a nice fella. My wife says Emmy's plenty lucky. A tall, good-looking Britisher and all. Well, any more deep, dark questions?
Yeah. If you hadn't been feeling well, if your sinuses had been bothering you, would you sneak out for an early morning swim in a damp, cold river?
Would I? For the love of Pete Valentine.
Skip it, Sheriff. I'll run down the rest of this case by myself. Now I know how to do it. Well, the gate's open, so let's walk right in.
Last night I saw a car drive out. Miss Brooks was reading, and I noticed through the window across the field.
You know, you notice everything, don't you, Mrs. Ponson?
I don't know what you mean. I certainly don't know why you dragged me back over here where that spider...
I think you do, Mrs. Ponsonby.
What?
Yeah, that spider stuff you throw around isn't very nice. In my opinion, ugly Emmy is a very tragic person.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And you, on the other hand, have been a phony from the word go.
What?
Yeah, that's right. I'm on her side now.
A phony? But I was struck by somebody. You don't think...
Nobody could hit you in the face like that without you seeing who it was. I never believed that story of yours in the first place.
Why, Mr. Valentine...
Yes, you could have had a fight with someone out here while we were inside waiting to see Emmy.
Sure. And remember something else, Angel. Bright Eyes here moved to this area only a couple of weeks ago, after the honeymooners had come. Suppose she followed somebody.
Stop it. Wait. You're not giving me a chance.
Mrs. Ponsonby, you're not very bright. You were crazy enough to believe some gossip and think we might nail something on Emmy for you. You're not unattractive. Sentimental, a little desperate, past 40.
35.
And he's worth trying to get, isn't he? George, of course it's Frederick Lunsford who...
Hey. The door's open.
I told you I saw a car leaving last night.
Oh. Well, there's smoke coming out of the chimney.
Well, there's somebody here, all right. Mr. Lunsford. Hello there.
Why don't you tell us, Mrs. Ponsonby? Is it all as simple as you trying to get a man away from a woman, only he wanted to keep out of sight from you?
Hey, hold it, Brooksy. No, it's simple, all right, but not...
Look here.
Huh? What is it?
It's a note.
Yeah. It says, Jeffrey, in case we're not here when you get back, don't worry. Frederick says we may have to go away for a few days on business. Something has come up, or may come up, I don't quite understand, but don't worry. Signed, Emmy.
They're gone, both of them.
The spider and the fly. Don't you get the setup yet, Angel? Yeah, the big handsome guy and the little ugly woman. But she's lonesome and rich. And his first wife was rich when he married her. And in between, there was a Spanish girl, another wife. Sure, he's the one who's the spider. Emmy,
I don't know what he is. I don't care. They've gone now, and that's all there is to it. Even if I've been foolish, it doesn't... What's the matter?
I'm just thinking about something.
Mr. Valentine.
It's warm outside this morning, isn't it? Only in here, it's even warmer. And if they've gone, then wouldn't... And it's smoke. Yeah, come on. It's from the furnace.
Oh, George.
The fire's down, but it's been going all night. And look, there's a buckle, part steel. Even it's bent down from all the... And look, this silver filigree. It's a brooch.
No.
Emmy's brooch. Yeah. And here's her wedding ring. All right, Mrs. Ponsonby. Come on. Snap out of it. This is no time to faint, sister. Come on. Oh, look, take care of her, Brooksy. I want to get the sheriff on the phone as fast as I can.
A door slammed. Outside door, back. George, hurry.
What is this? There's nobody. Oh, there he is. Hey, what is this? The study? All right, Buster. Mr. Barker.
Get your hands off me. Tarnation.
What are you doing here and going through that...
Going through an empty wall safe. I saw Emmy's note in the front hall. The doors were open. I thought I'd better check.
Check on what?
Well, Emmy and Fred, they've got a lot of negotiable stuff they kept in here. Rearranging finances or something. They're too deep for me. Seemed kind of crazy, her having so much cash around.
Oh, no. Every trick of the trade staring us right in the face.
Huh?
Sure. Of course it's all gone. Probably miles by this time. Only where have you been, Buster?
Oh, the city. Stayed all night. Always do. Shopping once a week. But, hey, why is the furnace on at a time like this? Emmy.
Come here.
No, I can see, Mr. Valentine. There's a gas blower in that furnace, too, you know. He never told me he'd had it put in.
All the tricks. Sure, this was planned a long time ago, friend.
10 years ago.
What?
Well, I mean, when Francis died, he must have...
Yeah, go on.
Well, him and Francis went to South America on their honeymoon. There was something funny about it. She took sick and died of cholera, he said. Nobody could argue. He sent back her ashes.
Well, from here on, it's a manhunt, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, Brooksy. You all right now, Mrs. Ponsonby? Now that it's too late, are you going to tell us what you know about Bluebeard?
Yes, I'm all right. Perfectly all right.
George, wait a minute. That door we heard slam.
Oh, sure, Angel. That was just...
But it was an outside door, and Mr. Barker said he'd come in the front way. Didn't he, through an open door?
Hey.
So it was somebody else. Lunsford can't be far away yet, George.
Doesn't have a car. Barker was using it.
I thought it was funny he didn't wait for the fire to die down.
My car's outside. There's open fields. He'd have to...
Hey, quick, give me those keys.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Running across...
I saw him. Hang on.
Through the fence. He's getting to that underbrush. We won't be able to...
The river's on the other side of it, isn't it? Oh, he wants to swim. All right. Sit still, sister. I'll get him.
Sit still yourself.
Huh?
He's in that brush there someplace.
Hey, wait a minute, lady. Where did you get that gun? What in the name of heaven are
I'm
you...
all the things you said I am. A fool. A stupid woman who chased after a man. Who tried to make you find something bad about the other woman who had him. I love Frederick. I couldn't help it. Nobody can help it. Every woman he meets...
Sister, this is no time for all
I
this...
told him that on the road last night, and he hit me. No, don't move. I'm another one of his wives, Mr. Valentine. Oh, separated, yes. Divorced, I don't know. Even know. None of his women even know. They all trust him like that poor, stupid Emmy. None of his wives. I don't know how many they are. Maybe the police do. The ones that are alive.
Mrs. Ponsonby, get hold of yourself, will you? That guy's in there.
I never believed he'd actually hurt anyone. He took my money, yes, but I didn't care about that. And I tried not to wonder about a Spanish girl who died on her honeymoon.
What?
Yes, and then when you finally found out what had happened to Francis... It's my fault, don't you understand? Emmy's my fault. I could have stopped it. The same thing over and over, but poor stupid Emmy I could have saved. Don't you see? It's my fault. And I called her a spider.
Mrs. Ponsonby.
Don't touch me. Look out! Valentine, I'm going to get him out of there. Nobody else is going to touch him until he's dead.
All right, you've got the gun. Maybe you could have prevented a tragedy, so... Only before you get hurt yourself, you'd better pull the safety off of that. That's all right. Nobody's hurt. Stay there.
Let me. He'll run.
No, he won't.
He's right there in the brush. He'll kill you. Be careful.
Don't worry.
Be careful.
Now, don't worry. I'm all right. In here someplace. I'll take care of it. Nobody will be hurt. This tragedy's already prevented. Yeah, I can see you in there all right. Come on now. Come on, stand up. Never mind pulling the hat down. I can see you now. Frederick's clothes don't fit you too well. So come on out, Emmy.
He's dead. I killed him. I waited all these years, and I killed him.
Oh, George, that poor thing. All those years.
Yeah. Well, I suppose she loved him too, Brooksy. But she figured out what had really happened to Francis, I guess. Yeah, pretty bitter revenge, wasn't it? Ashes for ashes.
To wait until she could get money, so she could get him. Could make him believe that she was just another soft-hearted sucker.
Yeah, well, she laid it on a little thick, all that wanting to be alone and old Frederick Dear stuff she told us, remember?
But how did you know he was the one who'd been murdered, George?
Well, an old maid should have wanted to show off a husband.
Yes, but
That and high school chemistry. Buckle was steel in it, in the furnace, remember? Been in that heat so long it actually changed shape.
Mm-hmm.
But a light gold ring and a silver filigree brooch at last should have almost melted.
So they were thrown in later, after the body.
That's it, an afterthought. Probably just before we came into the house. Besides, he wouldn't throw those things in there at all. If he was killing her, he wouldn't want to leave anything that would point to what happened.
But she wanted them found, of course. Like the note to explain her own absence that sounded as though Frederick were up to something. Like converting her money to negotiable things and taking
That's right. She might have gotten away with it if we hadn't got mixed up in it. Police would have been searching for him forever.
Oh, neat little web she spun, wasn't it?
Oh, no. He was the spider.
I don't know, George. Which is which?
You mean, Bluebeard?
Mm-hmm. Or the Black Widow.
Maybe you've had the experience of buying a new car and then after a few months being pretty disappointed with the way it performs. It just doesn't have enough pep. It acts logy in stoplight traffic, and some of the steep hills are almost too much for it. Well, that can happen to any car on the road if it's using gummy gasoline. Most raw gasolines contain impurities that form power-robbing gum. Careful refining is the only way to get rid of those impurities. And that's why Chevron Supreme gasoline is super refined to prevent engine-sticking gum. Just try this super refined gasoline. And remember that Chevron Supreme has every quality your car demands for superior performance. It is perfectly balanced to meet every driving condition. Perfectly balanced to give you better going wherever you motor in the West, and to give you plus mileage, too. Ask for Chevron Supreme where you can get competent battery inspection. That's at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Noreen Gamil was heard as Emmy, Lee Patrick as Mrs. Ponsonby, Eric Snowden as Frederick, Margaret Brayton as Mary, Larry Dobkin as Jeffrey, and Bill Boucher as Ames. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, the spider and the fly. This one was pretty interesting because it just had so many twists and so many things were just not what they seemed. And I think the writers did a great job playing off that. This one really did keep me guessing till the end. And I definitely had to appreciate the twist that they provided here. Well, we do turn to listener comments now. Tim has a comment regarding Candy Matson. Usually we'd save that for Candy Matson Day, but as there's not going to be another episode, Tim comments, I enjoyed the run of Candy Matson. There are many missing episodes lost forever. But are there any scripts still extant? Might be worth researching. Well, it's actually fairly well known that there are, within the old-time radio collecting community, that there are about 81 scripts. Actually about 6 times the number of episodes that are in common circulation. There are 81 scripts, which is really somewhat exceptional. Before anyone critiques the show or criticizes something about the show, it's a good idea to take a look and see what one radio author, for example, criticized Candy Matson for not having a representation of the Asian community in terms of any sort of guest stars on the and storylines on the program. However, one person who and he said he hadn't read any of the scripts. One person who actually went down to the library, Dennis at the Digital Deli, documents at least one case likely did involve someone of Asian heritage, the Lo Jung case from July 25th, 1950. It'd definitely be fun to get down there. I have not quite found the occasion or ability to make my way down to Thousand Oaks, but from what I gather, there are a lot of interesting scripts there, including scripts from yours truly, Johnny Dollar, where the radio version is missing, and maybe even some Dragnet scripts. I don't know how I'd get my wife's full support for a vacation like that, but I could definitely see taking it. Final comment. He says, my only quibble is with the photo. A tight-lipped Natalie Masters in Western garbs, widow woman or schoolmarm from an old Gunsmoke or Bonanza. Not the mental image of Candy Matson I'd imagined. And if you've not been to the site at greatdetectives.net, I have an image of our detective star if I'm able to obtain it. There are some actors I've not been able to get pictures of. John Stanley, for example, for Sherlock Holmes, and Frank Graham from the Jeff Regan series. With Natalie Masters, to be honest, there really wasn't a satisfying photo. When Natalie Masters recorded Candy Matson, the first episode, she was 34 years old. But her voice kind of projected this very strong, no-nonsense, very vibrant young woman. The problem with Masters' pictures is that the vast majority of the ones that are available online are from her television roles, most of which were after she turned 40. In the case of the picture we used, it was one where she was exactly 40 years old. The Digital Deli had a couple of pictures when she was younger, but didn't seem to capture the essence of Candy Matson either. It was definitely a challenging and character create. The younger pictures they have were from when she was like in her early 20s, like between 20 and 23. And that wasn't quite right either. So if anyone has got a picture that really personifies Candy Matson and really does character justice, I'd love to hear about it, but I couldn't find any. All right, well, that will do it for today. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Well, this episode of the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio is brought to you by the support of our listeners. The title of today's episode is The Adventure of the Wooden Claw.
From New York City, the makers of Clippercraft clothes for men and 1,036 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Tonight's story, The Adventure of the Wooden Claw. Well, here we are again, sitting in front of Dr. Watson's hearth. The coals have burned low, and over the rosy glow we face our favorite medico and storyteller. What's tonight's adventure to be, Dr. Watson?
Suppose I tell the one, Mr. Stark, in which Holmes suggested I present myself as the next victim of the individual called a cat.
Victim of a cat?
Yes, Mr. Stark. The cat was an unpleasant person who went about bashing in the skulls of bank messengers in Boston Yard, which, as you know, gives on to Hogarth Lane, of course.
Oh, naturally.
Yes. A ruthless and cunning criminal, that cat, sometimes called Peggy.
Aha! So it wasn't a tomcat.
No. There you go, Mr. Stark, jumping to conclusions. Just for that, I shan't tell you any more of the story until you say a word on behalf of our sponsor.
Fair enough, Dr. Watson. Clippercraft welcomes comparison. Compare the style, compare the tailoring, compare the all-round quality of Clippercraft with any clothes anywhere near their modest prices. That's why today's demand for Clippercraft's amazing value is so great. Ask the fine local independent store that sells Clippercraft. A store you can trust, you know, makes Clippercraft available in your community. Clippercraft suits are only $40 and $45, some Clippercraft aristocrats $50, top coats and fine coverts and worsted gabardines are only $40 and $45, and sport jackets only $26.50. Only the Clippercraft plan could make values like these, including long-wearing worsted fabrics, possible, concentrating the buying power of 1,036 great stores across the country, creating year-round economies in manufacturing and distribution costs. See what these savings mean to you. Compare Clippercraft with clothes selling for many dollars more. Now, Dr. Watson, will you go on with your story?
With pleasure, Mr. Stark, with pleasure. It was late one Saturday evening in May. Holmes, who had been promising to get at it all day, was finally sorting out certain odds and ends of notes and papers. He sat at his desk, the lamplight shining up into his eyes, looking rather like some gigantic bird of prey. I lay on the couch enjoying my faithful briar.
Watson, you'd better put out your pipe if you're going to drop off to sleep.
Oh, what? I wasn't sleeping. I was thinking. I always think better with my eyes closed.
And when you're snoring, I suppose.
I wasn't snoring?
Perhaps not, but you were getting ready to.
Nothing of the sort. Some people can't endure seeing anyone else relaxed and at ease while they have a job of work to do. May I point out, my dear Holmes, that if you had got at your labors at a decent hour, as I did,
well,
you
for
wouldn't
pity's
be...
sake, Watson, stop being so confounded smug. Hello, what's that?
Well, the doorbell, of course. Oh, don't look so hopeful, Holmes. I don't imagine it's anything that will interrupt your labors. Probably a caller for Mrs. Hudson or the greengrocer to leave his weekly bill.
It's not the greengrocer, Watson. He rings once and slips the bill under the door. No, that is someone for us. Ha-ha! Whatever brought him here is sufficiently urgent to necessitate my postponing sorting these papers, thank heaven. Come in, come in.
Mr. Holmes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Holmes, it's Mr. Merriweather. You remember Mr. Merriweather, the chairman of the City and Suburban Bank around the corner from Saxe-Coburg Square?
But the trouble isn't there, but in the suburban branch this time, Dr. Watson. The Chiswick branch, to be exact.
Chiswick?
It was originally pronounced Chiswick, Watson, and it's still so spelled. It means cheese farm, I believe. However, I don't imagine Mr. Merriweather has dropped in to discuss the most frequently mispronounced of all means of communication, the English language.
Good Lord, no. Mr. Holmes, something must be done to protect my bank messengers. I've had 6 in hospital with concussion of the brain, 1 a week for the last half-dozen weeks. It's always on Saturday night it happens.
Dear, I was under the impression that Chiswick was a quiet, respectable suburb that rarely indulged in that sort of a Saturday night.
No, but it doesn't. At least it never has, up to 6 weeks ago. And now, every Saturday night regularly, one of my bank messengers has been attacked and robbed. Robbed of a considerable sum of money.
Oh, now we come to the crux of the matter. What exactly were your bank messengers doing with large sums of money on Saturday night?
Carrying it from the Elephant and Castle, the famous old alehouse in Boston Yard, to the bank to be deposited.
Isn't that a rather unusual procedure?
It is, Mr. Holmes, it is indeed. But that's how we persuaded old Mr. Jeremy, the proprietor of the Elephant and Castle, to bring us his account. You see, the Elephant and Castle does its best business on Saturday night.
Not unusually, Holmes.
Watson, quiet, please.
Old Mr. Jeremy is somewhat fidgety about having that much money lying around the place till the bank's open on Monday morning. He's been robbed twice, and it's made him rather nervous.
Can't say I blame him.
So we arranged to have a bonded bank messenger sent over every Saturday night after closing hours to gather up the money so old Jeremy could sleep in peace. Now, I wish we'd never made the offer. Once the bank messenger has signed the receipt for the money, the bank is liable for any loss, down to the last penny.
By Jove, then you have had an expensive 6 weeks.
Expensive? So far it's cost us close to £3,000.
Tell me, Mr. Merriweather, when did the first of these robberies occur?
It was 7 weeks ago tonight. It was shortly after closing hours when the policeman on the beat heard a yelling and a shouting as he came down Hogarth Lane. The spring mist was rising off the river, and at first he could see nothing.
Help! For the love of heaven, help!
Hello, what's up?
Help! Somebody help!
Somebody calling, but I can't see a blessed soul.
Hello! What's the trouble and where are you? In here, through the archway, in Boston Yard.
And who are you? And what's the difficulty?
I'm Paddy Donovan, caretaker of Hogarth House. There's a man lying on the stones, in bad need of help, I'm thinking.
As black as the inside of my pocket in here. What's happened to the light of the Elephant and Castle?
Sure, it's been put out this half hour. The Elephant is a law-abiding house. You'll never see old Jeremy serve a man a drink after hours.
Unless he's paid double for it. Now, don't try to whitewash Jeremy. I know the old scallywag.
Bring your lantern over here. You'd best see what can be done for this poor chap. He's in a bad way, I'm thinking.
Well, let's have a look at him.
Glory be to God. It's a bank messenger from the City and Suburban. A robbery, that's what it is, I'll warrant.
When did it happen?
I couldn't rightly say, officer. All I know is I was locking up the front door of Hogarth's house previous to going to bed, when suddenly I heard a scuffle here in the yard, and the man called out like he was in mortal agony.
You ran in here at once?
Just so fast as ever me wooden leg would carry me. I'm not so spry as I once was, you know. But I was in time to see a great shadow of a man, dressed all in black, with a mask over his face. He was leaning over this poor fella here. When I came into the yard through the archway, I says to myself, aha, I've got you trapped, me bucko.
Of course. The archway is the only entrance to the yard, or exit either, except you go through into the Elephant and Castle.
Which I've been after telling you has been closed this half hour since.
That's as maybe. Well, at any rate, the man shoved past you and out the archway, eh?
That he did not. I may not be so spry in me feet, but my fist is as good as ever. No man alive can come it over Paddy Donovan if he ventures within arm's reach.
Oh, So he went in the Elephant and Castle.
He did not.
Then I suppose you'll be telling me he disappeared into thin air.
He did something stranger than that, me lad. He skinned up the wall and over it like a cat.
What? Well, that's impossible. That there wall is 12 feet high, and there's nothing for a foothold anywhere.
Possible or not, that's what happened. Up he went and over, like a cat. A great black cat. There, give me the creeps it did.
Yeah. Look here. This bloke's bleeding.
Wait, it's the back of his head, I'm thinking. There's blood oozing out in the pavement from behind his ears.
Yeah. Help me turn him over. We'll have a look at the injury.
Lord love us. Will you look at that? A nasty blow it must have been.
Cool. But it's more than just an ordinary blow. Blimey, look here. Great bloody gashes running right down into his neck. Like he'd been hit with a rake.
Or clawed by a giant cat.
I saw those wounds, Mr. Holmes. I promise you, that's what they looked like. The claw marks of a gigantic cat.
Catman, eh? Who scales 12-foot walls and whose blow leaves deep gashes. Interesting, Mr. Merriweather. Interesting and just a bit incredible.
Well, there is no such creature, Mr. Holmes. There can't be.
Oh, I don't know. I saw one once. It was in that French music hall. Remember, Holmes? The chap went up a smooth, tiled wall nearly 16 feet high. I believe he had some sort of suction device attached to his hands and feet.
Well, that could account for it, I suppose.
It might account for the fellow's disappearance over the wall, but not for the gashes and other significant phenomena. That is what interests me, Watson, those gashes. This man with a wooden leg, Donovan, I believe you said his name was. Is he a reliable witness, Mr. Merriweather?
Why, yes, at least I suppose so. He's been caretaker at Hogarth House for over 15 years. Hogarth House is where they have the famous collection of Hogarth drawings and the like. It's open to the public daily, except Sundays, for a small fee. I'm afraid Donovan isn't kept over busy with visitors. He spends much of his time at the Elephant and Castle.
That's it. He was drunk. Instead of seeing a pink elephant, he saw a man-sized black cat.
Who was substantial enough to claw and rob a bank messenger.
Oh, well, if you're going to be technical.
Tell me, Mr. Merriweather, were this fellow with a wooden leg and mine host of the Elephant and Castle on good terms?
Donovan and Jeremy have been cronies for years, Mr. Holmes.
So then anything unusual that goes on at the Elephant and Castle would be known to both?
Undoubtedly. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if, between them, they'd cooked up a neat little scheme to do the bank out of a tidy sum of money.
Of course, Holmes, I see it all.
Incredible.
Old Jeremy follows the messenger to me who has just handed the day's profits out into the courtyard, bludgeons him, and retires quickly with the money into his own premises. Then along hobbles Mr. Donovan with a cock and bull story about seeing an incredible cat-like creature. Jeremy recovers his day's earnings and is reimbursed by the bank as well.
Whereupon he has to split the swag with Mr. Donovan and is consequently no better off than if he'd saved himself the trouble.
I see your point, Mr. Holmes. But there are people, you know, who enjoy making a crooked sixpence more than a straight shilling. Oh, but good heavens, it's after 11, and I promised Jeremy I would be at the Elephant and Castle by closing time.
You mean you're undertaking the job of bank messenger yourself tonight, Mr. Merriweather?
Right, I'm not a particularly brave man, but I don't feel I have the right to ask an employee to take a risk I wouldn't wish to assume myself.
Bravo.
On the other hand, I'm not completely foolhardy. I think the danger would be considerably minimized if I were assisted by Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
What do you say, Watson? Would you consider a possible encounter with a cat man who robs bank messengers a sufficient excuse for postponing tidying up my papers?
What do you think, Holmes? I'll go and fetch my service revolver.
Thank heavens there's a moon tonight and no fog. Here we are, gentlemen. Hogarth Lane takes its name, of course, from William Hogarth, whose country residence was here situated from 1749 to...
Who goes there?
Good heavens, who? I mean, what was...
Calm yourself, Watson. It's merely a police officer on duty, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they station an officer at either end of the lane every Saturday night now.
They've never caught anyone or prevented the numerous repetitions of the first crime.
Not so far.
Well, tonight will be different, because Scotland Yard has personally taken over.
Well, if it isn't Inspector Lestrade, my favorite watchdog of the public safety.
And what do you think you're doing here, Holmes?
Endeavoring to stop the robbings and bludgeonings, which the official minions of the law and order don't seem to be able to terminate.
Well, you'll not go one step nearer the scene of this crime. No one's allowed in Boston Yard tonight without a permit.
Which I have duly obtained for myself and bodyguard. Here it is.
And who in thunder are you?
Oh, allow me to introduce you, Lestrade. This is Mr. Merriweather, whose bank has suffered a considerable loss for 6 successive weeks due to the inefficiency of the police.
You go to blazes.
With pleasure. I'm sorry to have to rush off, Lestrade, but I'm afraid you're making Mr. Merriweather late for his appointment at the Elephant and Castle. Come along, Watson.
Not a very well lighted thoroughfare, eh, Holmes?
Well enough. I doubt that anything will escape my notice.
Conceit? Pure conceit?
Tell me, Mr. Merriweather, in the case of the succeeding Saturday night bank robberies, was the pattern of the crime similar to the first?
Almost identical, Mr. Holmes, except that policemen have been stationed at either end of this section of Hogarth Lane to make sure that no one could leave or enter without being seen. Well, the police are as skeptical as you about a catman, Mr. Holmes.
And yet, each week, a messenger has been clawed on the back of the head and robbed, without uttering a sound or putting up a struggle.
Oh, not without uttering a sound, Mr. Holmes. Each time the victim has cried out. But by the time that Donovan has reached the spot, the culprit was vanishing over the wall.
Then, in each case, Donovan was the first to reach the victim.
Why, yes, that's right.
Interesting.
Oh, but that's only natural. Donovan is in the habit of smoking his last pipe on the steps of Hogarth House, where he is the caretaker. You see, over there, Hogarth House is almost directly opposite the entrance to Boston Yard. And consequently, after the cry was heard, he was able to reach the scene of the crime ahead of the police, who had to run some distance.
Oh, sounds reasonable enough, eh, Holmes? Oh, yes, that must be the old boy up ahead there, sitting on the steps with one leg stuck out before him. Yes, he's noticed us. He's getting up.
No, he's walking away in the other direction.
Ah! Great Scott, what was that?
Prelude to tonight's crime, confound it.
But that's impossible. Mr. Merriweather is here with us.
Don't argue, Watson. Run.
There goes Donovan through the gate into the yard. I say he's spry for a chap with only one good leg.
Because he doesn't waste his breath as you do, Watson. Here's the entrance.
Donovan, what happened?
Oh, I warned him not to do it. I warned him, Mr. Merriweather, sir, that you were late and he wanted to get the money to the bank.
Good Lord. It's Jeremy. Well, the blackguard has bashed old Jeremy.
But the money's safe. Not this time. They didn't get it. I was waiting. I'm done for, but the money's safe.
Mr. Jeremy, you know who hit you.
I suspected for some time. Now I know.
He's badly hurt, Holmes. He's going fast.
He can't not before he tells us. Mr. Jeremy, who is the criminal?
It's Peggy.
Peggy?
Holmes, he's gone.
Jeremy, my poor old Jeremy.
But who in thunder is Peggy? Do you know, Donovan?
Well, how should I know? The cat, it must have been a woman all the time. A woman dressed in men's clothes.
A woman who could give a man a blow hard enough to kill him and then disappear over a 12-foot wall. You saw her do that, Donovan, before we came in the yard a minute after you got here?
Well, that is, no, maybe tonight I didn't see the killer. Maybe tonight I wouldn't know. I was that upset when I seen it was Jeremy.
Hello, what's up? What's wrong here?
Mr. Jeremy has been bludgeoned, Lestrade. He's dead.
Oh, he is, eh? Right under Mr. Sherlock Holmes's nose, eh?
Lestrade, whoever finished off old Jeremy is still here in this courtyard. He couldn't have scaled a wall this time. We'd have seen him.
But it wasn't a he, Holmes. Mr. Jeremy said his assailant's name was Peggy.
I don't care what his or her name was. If he or she is still here, I want him.
Or her?
You fellas, search the yard.
That's what we've been doing, Governor. And I think we found something interesting here behind the rain barrel.
What's that?
Well, it's a man lying like he was drunk. Somebody that was thrown out of the pub earlier in the evening, like as not.
And who resented it and vowed to get even with Jeremy. There's motive and opportunity as well. Arrest him and take him off to jail. And you, Donovan, help him carry the body back into the Elephant and Castle.
Yes, sir. This way, boys. Carry him easy and with respect. My poor Jeremy. My poor, poor Jeremy.
Well, Holmes, you can't say Scotland Yard hasn't acted with dispatch and efficiency.
And with its usual utter lack of intelligence and concern for truth and justice?
If this man isn't guilty, I suppose you can tell us who is.
Quite. However, you wouldn't believe me. You see, I have no proof of my theory. It will take until next Saturday night to acquire that.
I feel dashed silly, Holmes. Dressed up in this bank messenger's outfit. What's the point to it all?
Watson, we're dealing with a sly and devious criminal. The only way is to catch him red-handed. During your service in the Far East, I believe you've taken part in a tiger hunt.
Oh, what of it?
You know the procedure. The hunter tethers a kid or a lamb to a tree and then retires to a nearby blind to wait for the tiger to attack his prey. Only this time, it's not a tiger we're after. It's a cat named Peggy.
And I'm the goat.
Quite. Yes, I think you may start on your journey across Boston Yard, Watson. Pity it's raining tonight, lowers the visibility. However, perhaps that's just as well, or the killer might recognize you. Well, I'll open the door and out you go. You've got the earnings of the Elephant and Castle safe in your pouch?
Well, naturally, you put them there.
Well, good luck, Watson. Don't be too nervous. Remember, Lestrade is hidden behind the rain barrel.
A fine lot of comfort that is. Well, let's get it over with.
Now, chin up, old boy. And whatever you do, fall sideways when I call out.
Into a mud puddle, probably.
Don't argue. Do as I say. Your life may depend on it.
Good Lord. What a night. Teeming cats and dogs. Cats. Never cared much for cats. This isn't going to improve my... What's that shadow slinking along the wall over there? Oh, confound this rain. I can't see a thing. Ah! What was that? Someone's coming this way. He's running through the gate. It's Donovan. Hey, Donovan, what's up? He's stopped. He's snatched off his wooden leg.
Watson, duck! Now then, Donovan, I'll take that wooden leg if you don't mind, one with which you've bludgeoned 7 people.
So it's you, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Something told me this was my unlucky night.
You can come out, Lestrade, and take the criminal in charge.
You needn't crow, Holmes. I saw the old thing. Well, got you red-handed this time, Donovan.
Yes, you've got the criminal and his weapon. Notice the spikes in the upper end of this wooden leg. No wonder the victims looked as if they'd been clawed by a giant cat.
Well, no use hanging about in this blasted rain. Come along, Donovan. You've slugged and robbed your last bank messenger.
And it reminds me, Watson, where are you?
Flat on the ground in a puddle, of course. Look at me. Nice mess. I say, Holmes, I'm still perplexed, you know.
Why?
Well, who was the man who screamed just now? Why did Jeremy say the cat's name was Peggy? And when did you first suspect Donovan was the criminal?
The answers to those questions can wait, Watson, until I get you safely home in a hot tub. That puddle has soaked you to the skin. And besides, this is Saturday night.
Right now is the time to visit that good store in your community that sells Clippercraft clothes. Yes, right now. For despite advancing clothing prices, Clippercraft continues to give you the same fine quality at prices amazingly low. Smart styling, fine tailoring, and perfect fit. The values are unbelievable, that's all. But they didn't just happen. They're the result of the famous Clippercraft plan, concentrating the buying power of 1,036 of the nation's finest stores from coast to coast. That's why even today you can buy top coats and fine coverts and worsted gabardines for only $40 and $45 and sport jackets for only $26.50. Yes, selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suit, top coat, and overcoat. In Manhattan, Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th. John Wanamaker's men's stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
And now, back to Baker Street. We find Dr. Watson sitting firmly in the midst of an old-fashioned tin tub, to which Holmes is adding a tea kettle full of very hot water.
Oh, that's enough. Do you want to scald me?
Yes, you are beginning to look nicely parboiled. I think you'll do.
Well, then, how about answering my questions?
Oh, very well. 1. The man who screamed was never the victim, Watson. It was old Donovan who was building himself an alibi. He screamed when he saw his victim cross the yard. Then he dashed in, took off his leg, and bashed him, while the police were running down the street in answer to his shouts for help. 2. Jeremy said the cat's name was Peggy, because that's what he called Donovan. Many a peg-legged man is nicknamed Peggy, you know. And lastly, I knew Donovan was the criminal when Mr. Merriweather told us how distinctly he described the cat man who crawled over the fence on the night of the first robbery.
But why was that suspicious?
Elementary, my dear Watson. It was a dark, foggy night. He couldn't have seen the criminal in detail. Remember, it wasn't until the policeman had turned his dark lantern on the victim that he could tell he was a bank messenger. Q-E-D.
I see. Well, it's all so remarkably simple once you explain.
It always is, Watson. It always is.
Well, don't just stand there puffing yourself up. You might get busy and scrub my back, you know.
Well, that was an interesting adventure, Dr. Watson. And what story are we to have next week?
Next week's story takes place in the Tower of London. It tells how Holmes and I rescued a damsel in distress and reformed a stony-hearted army officer and recovered a golden platter that should, by rights, have remained with the crown jewels. I call it the case of King Philip's golden salver.
The makers of Clippercraft clothes and 1,036 leading stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Lochran, with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in the case of King Philip's golden salver. Charles Sarge speaking for Clippercraft Clothes. This is the world's largest network serving more than 450 radio stations, the Mutual Broadcasting System.
In just 25 seconds, you'll hear Melvin Elliott reporting the latest news at home and abroad.
Welcome back. Well, I'm kind of disappointed in Lestrade here, because even for Lestrade, this was something that's kind of obvious to get. The killer was identified as Peggy, and the killer's identified by Peggy. Look, there's some random drunk guy behind this water barrel. Really? I have to say, this is for this episode, this is the first time I became aware of a Sherlock Holmes adventure with Holmes giving Watson a bath. Well, we'll turn to listener comments now. And then comments, love this podcast. And then I love all the Dragnet and Great Detective podcast. I've been downloading them since the beginning, and I would never miss one. From Housewife5001. Well, thanks so much for all your comments. They're much appreciated, and your support. We will be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And then join us next Thursday for Sherlock Holmes. Also coming up on Saturday, we have the Old Time Dragnet podcast, radiodragnet.com, and the Old Time Radio Superman program, 2 15-minute episodes that we have up every Sunday and Wednesday at laserandsword.com. Well, this episode is brought to you by the support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. Here now is today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Madison Matter, and I should warn that this is a rehearsal recording. But let's go ahead and take a listen.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Dupree, Johnny, down at International.
Oh, hello, Paul. Nice to hear your voice again. How are things?
All about the same. Johnny, would you like to come over to my office and meet a girl?
She pretty?
Very.
Interesting?
Very. As a matter of fact, she just told me the most interesting thing I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
She just told me that she was dead.
I better come over.
the makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum refreshes you. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum gives you real chewing enjoyment. Yes, for chewing enjoyment plus refreshment, it's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The lively, delicious flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint cools your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and gives you a nice little lift. The good, smooth chewing of Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you feeling fresh and alert, adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. So for chewing enjoyment plus refreshment, treat yourself often to Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the International Insurance Corporation, International Building, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention Claims Division. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Madison matter. Expense account item 1, $1.30. Cab fare downtown to the International Building. I went up to the 10th floor in Paul Dupre's office to find him sitting across the desk from a tall, dark-haired woman in her early 30s. She was pretty, she was quiet, she was well-dressed.
Oh, hello, Johnny. Come on in.
Hi, Paul.
This is Mrs. Walker, Mr. Dollar.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Sit down, Johnny. Make yourself comfortable. Mrs. Walker came to see me this morning with a most unusual story.
Something
Johnny.
about being dead?
Yes. Mrs. Walker, Mr. Dollar will be handling this matter for International. I wish you'd tell him exactly what you just told me.
Well, there really isn't much to tell you, Mr. Dollar. It's just that I'm legally dead and my husband is collected on my insurance policy.
What's your husband's name?
Frank Madison, Dr. Frank Madison. I took the name Walker when it happened. It was my maiden name. My married name is Thelma Madison.
Where does your husband live?
In Los Angeles.
I made a file check before you came over, Johnny. We issued a straight life policy on a Thelma Madison in Los Angeles, April 23rd, 1945. According to this, Mrs. Madison passed away June 5th, 1951. Claim was filed by the beneficiary, husband Dr. Frank Madison, June 7th, and paid on the 10th of that month.
Frank Madison, that's your husband? Huh?
Yes.
How much was the policy?
Full claim, $10,000.
Who adjusted it?
A local man, Los Angeles office, McCarthy there.
How about a death certificate?
Oh, yeah. Here's a photostat. Cause of death, coronary thrombosis. Here.
Thanks. This is signed by a Dr. Willis Reed, Mrs. Walker. Do you know Dr. Reed?
Yes, he's a friend of my husband's. They share medical offices.
Suppose you tell me how it worked.
Well, one night Frank had a patient who was in pretty bad shape. A girl had been drinking somewhat and saw his shingle and just came in the office. She said she was feeling badly. I was there helping Frank, acting as receptionist. The girl had a heart failure and was examining him.
You mean she died?
Yes, there was nothing anybody could do. It was one of those things.
Anyone there besides you and your husband?
No.
Well, how did all this work out?
Well, we looked in her purse and found an address for her in Jersey City.
No Los Angeles address?
No, so we put in a long-distance phone call to the place in New Jersey. It was an apartment. We talked to the manager there.
I see.
He told us that the girl's mother had died very suddenly 2 days before, and that her daughter was out in Los Angeles, and he'd been trying to locate her to ask her what to do with the body.
What was the girl's name?
Wanda Thompson.
What?
The man we talked to on the phone was quite upset. He didn't know what to do about the mother who had died in his apartment building, and he told us that the daughter was all she'd had in the world.
In other words, Wanda Thompson was completely alone.
Yes, as far as we knew.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Well, we didn't tell the man that she was dead, too. When Frank hung up the phone, he turned to me and said that we were in luck. I asked him what he meant, and he told me his idea.
You mean to use her body?
Yes, he called Dr. Reed and asked him to come over. Dr. Reed had never seen me, and he made out the death certificate.
In your name?
Yes, that's right.
And your husband collected your insurance?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, he needed money. Seemed a good way to get it without too much trouble.
Well, what was supposed to happen?
Well, I don't know. We didn't plan that far. I mean, I thought that Frank would eventually close his practice and come to New York, and we'd be together again.
Is that where you've been all this time? In New York?
Mm-hmm.
And your husband never joined you?
No.
Did he write to you?
Yes, for a while.
Do you have any of the letters?
No, I'm sorry.
Do you know why he stopped writing?
No.
Why he never joined you?
No.
Is there any way that you can prove you're Thelma Madison?
Well, not here in Los Angeles, I could.
How?
People there know me. Friends I've had all my life.
Were you ever fingerprinted?
No, I don't think so.
During the war, did you work in a defense plant, maybe?
No.
Did you have a postal savings account?
No.
How about a California driver's license?
No, I'm sure I don't have my fingerprints on file anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to furnish me with a list of names, people who'd identify you if asked to?
People in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Yes, I would.
You've been living in New York under the name of Thelma Walker since June 1951. Is that right?
Yes.
Where?
2218 East 57th Street. I still have my apartment there.
Have you been working?
Yes, as a laboratory assistant, Hyde Park Stations Incorporated. My boss is Mr. Platt.
Oh, I put in a call to them earlier, Johnny. Mr. Platt said he's employed an assistant named Thelma Walker for the last 16 months, but she hasn't been in for a week or so. I described this woman to him, and he said it sounded like her.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any of the insurance money, Mrs. Walker?
Not a dime.
Were you supposed to?
I suppose so.
Would you say that this whole thing was your husband's idea?
Yes.
Well, you're the one who seems to have lost all around, Mrs. Walker. Well, what did you expect to get out of it?
Well, I did it for Frank.
What about Wanda Thompson and her people, if she has any?
She hasn't.
Very few people in this world are without somebody, somewhere. Would you be willing to sign a statement containing all the information you've given me here today?
Yes.
You realize that if what you tell me is true, that you'll be criminally charged?
Yes.
By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a statement had been prepared.
Thelma Walker signed it without hesitation. I talked with Dupre in the outer office.
Well, Johnny, I don't even have to go up to legal to know that every word of this will have to be verified before we can take any action.
Well, if half of it's true, we're in business.
Oh?
She didn't give us any good reason for coming here.
Maybe she has a conscience.
She wouldn't have done it in the first place if she had. In the second place, she couldn't have lived with it for almost 2 years. And in third place, there's an awful lot of coincidence.
Yeah, but suppose it's true.
Well, then it's the neatest thing since the ball bearing.
What worries you most?
What I said before. She might be a crackpot with a good imagination.
Well, let's find out.
Expense account item 2, $38.14, transportation, Hartford to New York City. I checked my bag at the airport and took the limousine as far as the Waldorf. Expense account item 3, $3, cab fare and tip, to 2218 57th Street, Thelma Walker's residence. I talked to the manager.
This is her apartment, Mr. Dollar.
I see. How long has she lived here?
July 1951.
Good tenant?
Very. Quiet. No drinking or parties. Wish we had more like Mrs. Walker.
Do you know her very well?
Just as a tenant.
You ever talked to her?
Not much. At Christmas time, we had a drink together down in my apartment.
She seem all right?
What do you mean?
Normal.
Oh, yes.
Does she have any friends in the building that I could talk to?
No, she doesn't. One thing she keeps to herself. Minds her own business. May I ask where she is now?
In Hartford. New Hartford Hotel, if you want to talk to her about anything.
I'll remember that.
You mind if I look around?
I'll have to stay with you.
I found nothing in Thelma Walker's apartment that would help verify or disprove her story. An hour later, I located Mr. Platt, the proprietor of the Hyde Park Laboratories where Thelma Walker worked. His answers concerning her conduct, habits, and attitude were identical with those of the apartment house manager. I checked with 2 people who worked with her. The same. By midnight, I was back at the airport. Expense account item 4, $2.25. Long-distance phone call to Hartford.
Here's your part.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Johnny Dollar.
Oh, hi, Johnny. What'd you find out?
All clear here. Her story checks out about living in New York.
Well, we better go on with it then. Oh, I have some news. I talked to the coroner's office in Jersey City.
Oh?
Mabel Claire Thompson, age 61, died there June 3rd, 1951. The body was unclaimed and the county buried her. They were unable to locate her only known kin, a daughter, Wanda Thompson. She's believed to be in Los Angeles.
See if you can find a picture and some prints on Wanda Thompson.
All right, Johnny.
Expense account item 5, $185. Transportation, New York to Los Angeles. I arrived at 8:35 in the morning. By 9:35, I was in my room at the Stadler sleeping. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I awakened, shaved, and had something to eat. There was a special delivery airmail folder for me at the desk. It was from Paul Dupre. It contained a front and side view of Thelma Walker, along with a sample of her fingerprints and handwriting. Expense account item 6, $15. Car rental, so I could get around a very big Los Angeles. I caught a woman by the name of Quincy just as she was having a bite of dinner.
Please excuse me for eating like this while you're here, Mr. Dollar, but I'm in a terrible hurry tonight. I have a date.
Oh, that's all right, Miss Quincy. I'm intruding anyhow.
No, not at all. You say you're from an insurance company?
That's right. I thought perhaps you could help me.
I'll try. What do you want?
Well, I'd like to have you look at this.
Mm-hmm.
You know the woman in this picture, Miss Quincy?
Well, she looks terribly familiar.
Do you know her name?
I think. Yes, I know that girl. Of course, that was Thelma Madison.
Frank Matson's wife?
Yes, poor Thelma died a year or so ago, very suddenly.
How well did you know her?
Oh, we played bridge together occasionally. We went shopping. I used to work for Dr. Madison as a receptionist.
How long ago was this?
A couple of years ago. I quit to take the job I have now.
But you did know Mrs. Madison.
Yes, of course, she was in the office a lot of the time.
And you're absolutely positive this is a picture of her?
Well, yes, is there any doubt?
Well, we just want to be sure.
The poor girl's been dead almost 2 years. Aren't you sure?
Yes.
You know, I don't think you've been exactly telling me the truth.
I just had your name on a list, Miss Quincy. I was told you'd be able to recognize a picture of Thelma Madison if you saw it.
Oh, who told you that?
I'd rather not say.
So mysterious. You want some coffee?
No, thanks.
Well, you look nice enough, I'll say that.
Oh, thank you. Miss Quincy, when did you hear about Mrs. Madison's death?
The day after it happened. I dropped in to see Dr. Madison about some things I had left there, and he told me what had happened. It was quite a shock. She was always so healthy.
I see. Did you go to Mrs. Madison's funeral?
No, there wasn't one. Dr. Madison had her body cremated.
Friends, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you'll enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Chew Wrigley's Spearmint while you're working. The lively, full-bodied flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you a refreshing little lift. The smooth, pleasant chewing of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum helps keep you feeling relaxed and satisfied. Makes your job seem easier. Chew Wrigley's Spearmint Gum in your home, when you're out walking or driving, when you're enjoying outdoor sports and other activities. Wrigley's Spearmint Gum tastes good anytime, and the natural chewing aids digestion and helps keep your teeth bright and attractive. Yes, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you'll enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
The Los Angeles police had a missing person report on Wanda Thompson dated June 21st, 1951. They'd been unable to get any leads as to her whereabouts. The reports had been filed by a man named Rexford. I looked him up. He lived in a small house off Laurel Canyon Drive. I told him my business.
Insurance?
Investigator.
Oh. Well, come on in. Come on in, Mr. Don.
Thanks.
Yeah, sit down. What can I do for you?
I understand you once knew a girl named Wanda Thompson, Mr. Rexford.
Yeah, that's right, I did. So tell me you know where she is.
No, I couldn't say that exactly.
You're looking for her.
Yeah.
You been to the police?
Yes. You filed a missing person complaint on her?
Yeah, but they never did find her.
Is she a good friend of yours, Mr. Rexford?
Yeah, sort of. She was a nice little kid. Came from someplace in New Jersey.
How long did you know her?
About 3 weeks or so.
How did you happen to meet her?
I met her in a restaurant. She sat across from me. It was kind of crowded, and don't get the wrong idea. It was just that we began talking, and we wound up going to a movie together. I saw her quite a bit for a while, and then she just up and disappeared without a word. That's about it.
Do you remember when you last saw her?
Sure, it was my birthday, June 5th. Went out and took in a play and had some drinks and food. I took her home, and she lived in a room over on, I think it was Berendo Street.
1480 West Berendo?
Yeah, that's a little soy court. It's the last I saw of her. Called a couple of times, and the landlady said she hadn't seen her around, and I went over there. We went in the room, found all of her things there, but she was gone. Finally got worried and went to the police.
Mm-hmm. She drink much?
No.
You think something happened to her?
Well, I don't know. I mean, anything could happen. Why would a kid like that just walk away from all her clothes and things and not let anybody know about it at all?
Did she know many other people in town?
Well, I told the police that I didn't think she did. I never heard her talk about anybody else. I knew she'd only been here for a little while, so she came here for health.
Oh?
Yeah, some kind of heart trouble. Needed the weather or something like that.
Did you tell this to the police when you reported her missing?
No, should I?
Did she go to a doctor here?
Oh, yeah, I saw him a couple of times while I knew her.
Was his name Madison, by any chance? Dr. Frank Madison?
Yeah, that's it. Dr. Madison. He was the guy who was taking care of her.
I spent another hour questioning Anthony Rexford. As far as he was able to remember, Wanda Thompson's heart condition had not been a serious one. Or at least she had explained it that way to him. After I left Rexford, I checked with the telephone company about the phone call Dr. Madison was supposed to have placed to Jersey City the night of Wanda Thompson's death. They had no record of any such call being completed. I decided to try Dr. Madison himself.
Well, what can I do for you, Mr. Dollar?
I'm an insurance investigator, sir. I understand you once treated a patient named Wanda Thompson.
Wanda Thompson? Thompson? I don't remember. What did I treat her for?
A heart condition.
Oh, well, soon find out. Thompson. When was this?
Oh, almost 2 years ago. I don't have the exact dates.
Well, I have a Wanda Thompson in my files, Dollar. Was it something important?
Pretty important.
Well, she might have come in once for some little thing. I wouldn't make a history of that necessarily.
A man she once knew here told me that she came to you a few times.
Could have been another Dr. Madison?
No, she told him it was you.
That's funny. Well, say, now, wait a minute. You say this was 2 years ago?
About that.
My wife was acting as receptionist for me then. She wasn't too good at keeping records.
Oh. Do you suppose I could talk to her and ask her?
My wife is dead, Mr. Dollar.
Oh.
I'm sorry I can't be of more help.
I thought every doctor kept a record of all his patients, even if they just came in with a nosebleed.
As I said, my wife wasn't too efficient at her job here.
Oh, yes. You did say that, didn't you, Doctor?
What is this, Mr. Dollar?
My chance to get a look at you.
What do you mean by that?
I'll come right out and say it, Doctor. You should have kept a file on Wanda Thompson. You should have kept that above all other things. The fact that you don't have one is going to make me believe a lot of things that I haven't really believed up till now.
What things? What on earth are you talking about?
I talked to a woman in Hartford, Connecticut 4 days ago who told me her name was Thelma Madison. She said she was your wife. She said that Wanda Thompson died in your office one night and that you identified the body as your wife's.
What?
And what's more, you collected $10,000 worth of insurance on her. Here's her picture, Doctor. Is this your dead wife? Well? All right, I'll tell you. It is your wife. And she's still very much alive. And the story she told me in Hartford is pretty much the truth.
I've never seen this woman before in my life.
That's funny. 14 people in Los Angeles who knew her pretty well have seen that picture, and all of them say her name is Thelma Madison, that she was your wife. I've talked to every one of them, and I've got statements from them to that effect. And what's more, I have a rather long statement from Thelma Madison herself. It tells the whole story. Would you like to read it?
No.
Then maybe you'd like to make a statement yourself.
I have nothing to say, Mr. Dollar.
No, I didn't think you would, Doctor. On the strength of the evidence already assembled, I preferred charges against Frank Madison and had him taken into custody. He refused to talk with the police with me about any of the charges of which he was accused. He was held without bail pending investigation. Expense account item 7, $2.20. Telegram. I wired Dupre to bring Mrs. Madison to Los Angeles as soon as possible in order to avoid a lengthy extradition procedure. They arrived the following day. I interviewed her once more.
You say Frank's in jail?
Yes.
I suppose I'm to be arrested.
Well, so far we have enough evidence to prove conspiracy against you two, and we'll prosecute to the limit on that. There'll be some other charges against him. Business with the body and so on.
Yes.
But there's something else here I want to get straightened out. Let me read this to you. A girl whom we later found out to be Wanda Thompson walked into the office on the night of June 5th, 1951, and complained of feeling ill. She'd been drinking. My husband took her into the examination room, where she died a few minutes later of a heart condition. Those are your words on this sworn statement.
Yes.
Let me go on. I had never seen or heard of Wanda Thompson until that night. I was with my husband when he placed a phone call to her home in Jersey City. He spoke with a man there who managed an apartment house, and so on. Mrs. Madison, that call was never placed.
I was in the room when Frank made it.
The phone company has no record of it. Were you in the room when Wanda Excuse me. I started to say Wanda Hendrick. From, Line 4, okay. Where's line 4? I can't find it, my screen. Oh, I see.
It's middle 4.
Phone company has no record. Okay. Thanks. Okay. The phone company has no record of it. Were you in the room when Wanda Thompson died?
No.
Did you know that she was a patient of your husband's before that time?
No.
Well, I found out. I'll tell you, Wanda Thompson was one of your husband's patients. She didn't just walk in and drop dead. I talked to a man who knew Wanda Thompson. She told him about going to your husband for treatment. How do you explain that?
I didn't know it.
You said you were acting as receptionist. When she gave you her name, didn't you look into your index to see if you...
No, I didn't at all.
Now, look, Mrs. Madison. A lot of these things you told me have been true. But a lot of them don't make sense.
Well, you wouldn't know anything about any of it if I hadn't come to you.
Well, maybe that's so. Why do you think we've gone to the expense and trouble of checking all this? I'll tell you. Because it was just too good to be real. A girl alone and friendless in Los Angeles dying of a heart attack in a doctor's office. A doctor who needs money and has a wife who's heavily insured. It's too much for us to take. Even with a signed statement, it's too much to take. Wanda Thompson was a patient of your husband's. She came to his office one day like anybody else. You or your husband took her personal history. And you noticed that she only had one relative in the world who'd be worried if she died. A mother way back in Jersey City.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a premeditated, planned murder. That's what I'm talking about. When that mother died suddenly, there was nobody to worry about poor little Wanda Thompson anymore. Nobody to ask questions about her. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
You want to tell me about it?
Wanda had been in to see Frank twice before. Knew about her. And that night when she came in the office, she said she'd just received word that her mother had died suddenly. She asked for something to make her sleep. Frank took her back in the examination room.
Go on.
A few minutes later, he buzzed me to come back. Wanda was lying on the table, dead.
Mm-hmm.
Frank looked kind of strange. Crazy. He said that Wanda had had a sudden heart attack and died before he could do anything. Well, I knew it wasn't so. There was a hypodermic on the stand. He'd given her something. I just didn't think he'd go that far.
Hadn't he discussed something like that with you before?
No, I swear he hadn't said a word to me before that night. And he had it all planned when he called me back in the examination room. He called Dr. Reed on the phone and told him that his wife was very ill and asked him to come over and help out. When Dr. Reed got there, he showed him that poor girl. He said it was me.
And that's how he signed the death certificate?
Yes.
Where were you all this time?
In Frank's office, I heard every word.
But you didn't say anything?
Well, no, I was too stunned by it all, I guess.
When did you leave town?
That same night. Frank made me. He said he'd handle everything. I accused him of killing Wanda, and he said that she just died there. But I know it wasn't so.
Okay. You want a cigarette?
Yes, please.
Here you go.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, I'm glad it's all over now. I'm terribly glad.
Expense account item 8, $73.50. Board and room while in Los Angeles. Expense account item 9, $205. Plane fare to Hartford. Expense account total, $525.39. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum refreshes you. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum gives you real chewing enjoyment. The lively, full-bodied flavor of Wrigley's Spearmint cools your mouth, freshens your taste, sweetens your breath. The smooth, pleasant chewing of Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you feeling relaxed and satisfied. Makes whatever you're doing more enjoyable. Yes, for refreshment plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself often to Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Millions enjoy it daily. Get a few packages and always keep some handy. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by E. Jack Newman with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Joseph Kearns, Lillian Baeff, Harley Bear, Virginia Gregg, Tom Tully, and John McIntyre. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Welcome back. Well, this is not often recorded as a rehearsal, and OTRR did not. The reason, perhaps, for that is the Evan O'Brien rehearsals were pretty Spartan affairs. You didn't have music or a lot of the frills associated with the regular program. This sounded just like a regular Johnny Dollar show, except for that big blooper. At this point, Johnny Dollar had commenced with being pre-recorded, transcribed. So you would not hear this type of blooper on the air. Well, Lon handled it very professionally and proficiently. I think that one thing I will say for actors with a lot of experience on the stage, you do the same play over and over again, and every actor's going to blow a line. And you'll have some actors you'll see, for example, in movies who will just blow up and start swearing. You can't do that if you're on the stage because you have an audience there and the whole play can break down. So stage actors may handle that just a little bit better when that does happen to them. Well, as for the plot itself, it's kind of interesting. If you were listening when we did Jeff Regan Investigator, E. Jack Newman, who wrote this episode, wrote an episode from Jeff Regan that was reused, I think, 2 or 3 times, the general plot. And in that plot, a woman comes to the Lion, who is Regan's employer, and hires him to find her sister. And when Regan investigates it, he finds out that their client is not actually the sister of the woman they're looking for. Rather, their client is the wife who is supposed to be who has been presumed dead of a doctor, and the doctor basically took the body of a stranger, someone who was not well known in the area, and said it was his wife, so that he could go ahead and collect a big insurance settlement. Here we're getting the same story, but it's turned around where we're investigating from the insurance company perspective. This particular episode, even after some explanation, I've got to say, the whole thing, this may be the episode of any show that I may have the hardest problem believing, just from a kind of pure logic standpoint. For one, the amount of the insurance policy made the stakes, not insignificant, but still not necessarily worth the effort. The life insurance policy was $10,000. In 2011 dollars compared to 1951, that's an $86,000 policy. The doctor, however, has to send away his wife, and she remains out there. And well, the one thing that occurred to me, if this guy, if this doctor was so sociopathic that he would kill a patient and then have his wife basically permanently out of the picture in order to collect this money, why wouldn't he instead kill his wife and then not have to worry about this threat of her information coming forward? The one plausible thing that Jeff Regan had that this one really didn't was that the doctor had found someone else while his wife was away. Plus, I think the money may have been a little more and made the whole thing make a little more sense. This one was also done as a yours truly Johnny Dollar 5-parter with Bob Bailey, and I think it may have had a slightly different ending with perhaps a little more action and tension. All right, well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Question comes in from radio enthusiast of Puget Sound on Twitter. Thank you for all the great shows. How did you get started in old-time radio? Well, I've answered this in some form before, but I'll address it a little bit more specifically here. I got involved with, I first heard old-time radio back in the 1990s. My dad bought us a set of cassette tapes at the thrift store. And really, I didn't do anything with it until I really started getting into Dragnet. And at the time, the 1960s TV episodes were not available at all. But I believe it was my dad. He got me for Christmas some Dragnet episodes, and they were the black and white shows. And I found out over the course of time that there was a radio show, so I started listening to Dragnet. And then I started to discover, a lot of what was out there in terms of old-time radio through a online radio station out in that's out in Illinois. I think it broadcast for about half a mile. And so I started listening to that, discovered a lot of the old-time radio resources on the internet about, I think, 2008, 2009, and so became a lot more involved. So that's kind of the short story version of it. We have a few, thanks so much for your tweet over at Radio Detectives. Other comments, love this podcast from Javier. I'm literally hooked on this app. I found it about 3 months ago, and I've been playing catch-up ever since. I listen off and on all day, every day. Retirement is a good thing. Keep up the great work, Adam, you silver-tongued devil. Where are you from? Can't place the accent. From Terry in Deer Park, Texas. Well, thanks, Terry. I actually live in Idaho. Now, one thing when I was growing up, we moved around a lot during some of my formative years, like from the time I was about 8 to 16. And so we lived a lot of different places. We're on a lot of different people. A lot of time spent in the Northwest, but also down south. So I picked up a little bit of something. I think it's just a combination of things. I remain of the opinion I don't have an accent, even though I know, probably everyone's got an accent with which they speak, but I don't think I've got anything well known. Final comment from Val, still my favorite podcast by a mile. Thank you, Adam. Well, and thank you, Val. Well, that will actually do it for today. For those of you who have the app or our premium site, we have John Lunn in a very moving radio play. I think you will enjoy it as our February app extra. It's called Heaven is Like That, and I think you'll, like I said, I think you'll enjoy it. That will actually do it for today. Tomorrow is our 600th episode special, and we will have Studio One, their presentation of the 39 Steps, starring the great Mr. Glenn Ford, as well as John Stanley, Mercedes McCambridge, and a whole slew of others. Well, we're going to present a few things we need to introduce, and that is Glenn Ford, Studio One, and tonight's play, The 39 Steps. Glenn Ford was a very successful actor. He began his career in 1939, and it would continue until 1991. This particular radio play was from March 23rd of 1948. So he was still in the early part of his career, which had been interrupted for 2 years of service in World War II. Studio One had been begun the previous year by CBS with the goal of showcasing an hour adaptation of some of the world's best plays and novels, with some of these tending to be a bit controversial. Studio One would leave the air as when CBS acquired the rights to airing the Ford Theater, with a very nice sponsor in the Ford Motor Company. Studio One would, however, become a very prominent name in television, and one of the most successful and well-beloved of the 1950s live TV anthologies sponsored by the Westinghouse Corporation. The 39 Steps is the template. It's one of the earliest stories of a type that we're all very well used to by now. If we've seen movies such as North by Northwest, man on the run, falsely accused, with intrigue and mystery surrounding him. 39 Steps has been adapted numerous times for radio, television, and the stage, as well as motion pictures. The most famous adaptation was Alfred Hitchcock's 1935 adaptation, and it's been adapted numerous times over the radio. The first time was actually by Orson Welles on the Mercury Theater. We will eventually play that version, because that version stayed closer to the novel than the Hitchcock film, or this radio version, which seems to track pretty closely to the way that Hitchcock did it as opposed to the original novel. We're going to hear some interesting voices, including one of the actors who usually plays a lead role in one of our detective series. We'll talk a little bit more about the story once we get back. But now from CBS and Studio One from March 23rd of 1948. Here now, as our 600th episode special, is The 39 Steps, starring Glenn Ford.
Tonight, Mr. Glenn Ford stars in The 39 Steps from Studio One at CBS.
You're a woman, and you're defenseless, and you're alone on the desolate moor in the dark, handcuffed to a murderer who'd stop at nothing to get you off his hands. If that's a situation you enjoy, my lovely, have it and welcome.
We invite you to Studio One, radio's celebrated playhouse of dramatic entertainment, featuring the world's great stories, novels, and plays.
in special versions for listening. And now to introduce tonight's great story, here is the director of Studio One, Fletcher Markle.
Tonight, we present you with a tall and shamelessly exciting story by that wizard among authors of mystery adventure, the late John Buchan. With the 39 steps, we offer you spies and secrets and high doings in England and Scotland. Romantic interests aren't going to be neglected either. There are at least 2 mysterious ladies to be heard from, whose charm is equaled only by the trouble in which they get themselves and a certain young man involved. In our story, that young man is a personable Canadian named Richard Hannay. And tonight we have with us in Studio One another personable and very talented Canadian to bring Richard Hannay to life for you, Mr. Glenn Ford. With Mr. Ford, you'll be hearing Kathleen Cordell as Pamela, Mercedes McCambridge as Annabella, and Miriam Wolfe as Annie, with Everett Sloane and John Stanley contributing the largest share of many villainies. The 39 Steps by John Buchan. Pleased to begin.
This seat taken?
No, I don't think so.
Well, would you mind moving your coat?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
There you are.
Thanks. She was rather good, wasn't she?
I beg your pardon?
I said she was rather good.
Oh, yes, she was.
Was that the first turn?
No, that must have been the third or fourth.
Oh, I understand that this is the best music hall in London.
Yes, it is. Haven't you ever been here before?
No, I just arrived from Canada a few days ago. You know, I don't usually like music hall entertainment.
Please be quiet. I want to hear the next
Oh,
act.
I beg your pardon.
Ladies and gentlemen, with your kind attention and permission, I have the honor of presenting to you one of the most remarkable men in the world. Every day he commits to memory 50 new facts and remembers every one of them. Facts from history, facts from geography, facts from newspapers, from scientific books, millions and millions of them. Think of the strain involved by his prodigious feat.
His feet ain't half big as yours, Curly.
I'm referring to his feats of memory. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. Ask him your questions, and he'll answer fully and freely. Mr. Memory.
Thank you. A question, please. Ladies first.
Where's me old man been since last Saturday?
On the booze.
Out with a good looker.
A serious question, please.
What won the Derby in 1921?
Mr. Jack Jones, humorist, with Steve Donahue up. Won by a length, odds 6-1. Second and third, Craig and Erin and Lemonora. Am I right, sir?
Right. Who was the last British heavyweight champion of the world?
My old woman! It was Bob Fitzsimmons. He defeated Jim Corbett, heavyweight champion of America, at Carson City, Nevada in October 1897. He was then 34 years of age. Am I right, sir?
Right!
You know, I think I'm going to ask him a question.
Why tell me about it?
Another question, please.
How far is Winnipeg from Montreal?
A gentleman from Canada. You're welcome here, sir. Winnipeg, the third city of Canada and capital of the province of Manitoba. Distance from Montreal, 1,424 miles. Am I right, sir?
Quite right.
I've got to get out of here.
Come on, I'll help you.
Please, I've got to get out.
Come on, take my hand.
Will you get out of my way?
Take my hand and let me clear the way for you.
Thank you.
Out of the way, coming through. Give us room. Coming through. Lady coming through. There's the door.
Hurry, please.
Coming through.
Who do you think you're shoving?
You, lady coming through. There we are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don't mention it. I wanted to get out myself.
May I come home with you?
Did my ears deceive me, or did you say, may I come home with you?
Yes, please.
Well, it sounds like a very excellent idea, but what is the idea?
Don't ask questions. Just take me home. I'll tell you when we get there.
Well, if that's what you want, come on. There's a bus. Well, here you are. I'll turn on the light.
Not yet.
What? What's the matter?
Here. Let me turn this chair. Now, you can turn on the light.
What's this all about?
Would you mind turning that mirror face to the wall?
Afraid somebody outside might see you?
Exactly.
Oh, no. I haven't that bad a reputation.
I'm not worried about your reputation. Please.
Well, all right. All right, you don't have to go out looking for adventure. No, you carry it with you like a child playing alone. Oh, by the way, my name is Hannay. Am I allowed to know yours?
Smith.
Oh. Yes, all right. Yeah, I'll take your coat.
Thank you. You want to know more about me? What do you think I do for a living?
Actress?
Not in the way you mean.
Chorus?
No.
Sorry. Out for adventure?
That's right.
That's interesting.
Don't answer that telephone.
Why not?
Because I think it's for me.
Well, now listen now.
Please don't answer.
All right. I'll string along.
I guess I owe you an explanation.
Well, I was hoping we'd get around to that. I suppose your name isn't really Smith.
It depends on where I am. You may call me Annabella.
Oh, Annabella Smith. A clergyman's daughter, I suppose. Hey, what makes you so nervous? Bothered by the shot in the theater?
That shot was fired at me. There were 2 men in that theater who wanted to kill me.
Oh, now, you really should be more careful about choosing your gentleman friends.
No, you don't understand.
Well, you don't make it very easy for me now, do you? A beautiful and mysterious woman pursued by gunmen? Sounds like a spy story.
That's exactly what it is.
You're a spy?
I prefer the word agent.
For what country?
For any country that pays me.
I suppose you've come here to dig up some great big state secret.
No. As a matter of fact, I'm here to save a secret from being dug up. A very important secret of this country, not because I love England, but because it will pay me better that way.
Thank you on behalf of the British Empire.
But this is serious. A very clever agent of a certain foreign power is on the point of obtaining a secret vital to your air ministry. I tracked 2 of his men to that music hall. Unfortunately, they recognized me. That's why they're after me now.
Have you ever heard of a thing called persecution mania?
You don't believe me?
Frankly, I don't.
Go and look down into the street, then.
What?
Go to the window. Look down into the street. You'll probably see 2 men lounging around opposite the entrance to this building.
Well, all right, I'll take a look. Might as well give you a chance to prove your preposterous theory. Oh. You win.
They're there?
Yes, they're there.
I'd hoped I'd shaken them off. I'm going to tell you something which isn't very healthy for you to know. But now that they've followed me here, you're in this just as much as I am.
How do you mean?
Have you ever heard of the 39 steps?
What's that, a pub?
Never mind. The important thing is that a state secret will be taken from this country unless I stop those men.
Well, why don't you phone the police or something?
Because they wouldn't believe me any more than you did. And if they did, how long do you think it would take them to get going? Oh, no, these men act quickly. And you don't know how clever their chief is. He's clever and ruthless.
Well, who is he? What's his name?
He has a dozen names, and he can look like 100 people. There's one thing he can't disguise. Part of his little finger on the left hand is missing. And if ever you should meet such a man, be very careful, my friend.
I'll remember. Meanwhile, what are you going to do?
May I stay here?
Well, you're welcome to my bed here. I'll catch a nap on the couch.
Thank you.
Now, see here. I'm going to lock you in the bedroom.
No, there's no need of that.
Oh, yes. After all, if your story is true, your safety is pretty important to England. I'm going to lock you in the bedroom. Then, if those men force their way into the apartment, they'll have to deal with me, and they won't be able to get you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. And I'm very tired. Do you think it would be all right if I went to the bedroom now?
Don't get up. Stay in that chair till I switch off the lights.
You've certainly changed since you came in here, Mr. Hanley.
Annabella? Annabella, I'm coming!
Mr. Penny.
Annabella.
Mr.
Oh, you're hurt. Here, let me help you to the bed.
No. There's no time. Just hold me. They came in by the window. They couldn't open the door to get to you. But you're next.
Now, see here, stop talking. You're too weak to talk.
No, listen. Hold me. I must tell you. A man in Scotland. In Altnashalik. Go to him and tell him.
Who is he? What's his name?
His
name, Annabella.
His name?
Hello?
Mr. Henny,
Yes?
is Annabella dead?
Who is this?
Never mind. Is Annabella dead?
Yes, you did your work well. But you won't get away with it.
Have you called the police?
You and I both know that the police would only arrest me.
Yes. But I'd advise you to call them. If you come out without the police, we will kill you, Henny.
Who's that?
You the milkman?
I am. Well, you're a bright early for such a fine gentleman.
Could you use a pound note?
What's the catch?
Well, I want to borrow your cap and coat. I want to dress myself up like a milkman.
What's the big idea?
Well, I want to make a getaway.
Ah, do a bunk?
Yes.
I say, what have you been up to?
I'll have to trust you. There's been a murder committed on the first floor.
By you?
No. Did you see two men hanging around across the street?
Yes?
They committed the murder.
Oh, I see. Now I suppose they're waiting there as good as gold for a copper to come and arrest them.
Yes, it's quite true. They're spies. They've murdered a woman in my flat, and now they're waiting for me.
Oh, come off it. Funny jokes at 5 a.m.
But, all right. I'll tell you the truth. Are you married?
Yes, but don't rub it in.
Well, I'm not married. I'm a bachelor.
Well, congratulations.
There's a woman living here on the first floor.
Is there now?
Yes. I paid her a call last night, and I've been wanting to go home since midnight.
Well, what's preventing you?
Those men. They're her brothers. Now, do you see?
Oh, God. Why didn't you tell me before, old fella? I only wanted to be told. Trying to kid me with a lot of talk about murders and spies. Here, put this on. Put on my little hat. There you are.
Here, take the pound.
Well, thank you, Governor. Here's my bottle. Just leave my pony and cart around the corner. So long, old sport.
Thanks again.
Roger.
Giddy up. A first-class ticket to Aberdeen, Scotland, please. How do you do?
Well, good day, sir.
The conductor tells me this is my compartment. Is the room?
Of course. Sit down.
Thank you.
You a traveling man?
No.
I am. I travel in women's underwear. You interested?
Oh, always.
Yes. I've got a new corset I'm selling this trip. The Streamline. You know, I can never understand how people put up with the old-fashioned sort. All bones and no beds. Not mine. Put a pretty girl inside of mine, sir, and she needn't be ashamed anywhere. I say, I must be boring you. Yes, I guess I'll look at the paper.
No, you're not boring me.
I say, there's been another woman murdered in a West End flat.
What?
Woman murdered in a West End flat. Portland Mansions in Portland Place. Oh, yes, I know what that is. A well-dressed woman of about 30 with a knife in her back. Lieutenant Richard Hannay is missing. Ha! Missing. He did it all right.
What do the police say?
The police theory is that... Oh, well, if that isn't the blasted limit.
What is?
Is there no honesty in this world at all? Now, look here, sir. Look at this advertisement. Now, I ask you. The new Bodyline rubber panty corset on sale today at McPherson Brothers, 17 and 9pence. Why, they're underselling us.
Do the police say who did it?
Brassiere to match 4 and 11pence.
Yes, that's too bad. But what about that murder you were telling me about?
Blast the murder, sir. I've got to look through this paper and all the other ads. Now, let me see now. Here, what is this?
Where could I get a paper?
Well, we're coming into a station. Why don't you get off and buy one?
Yes, I'll do that. Pardon me. Oh, pardon me, conductor, but have I time?
What is it, sir?
I was wondering if I have time
Conductor.
Yes, sir?
I'm from the police. As soon as the train starts again, I'll want to search every compartment.
Oh?
Yes, we're after a man named Richard Hannay, a West End murder.
Right, sir. Now, what was it you wanted, sir?
Oh, never mind. The train's starting. It's too late now. Oh, pardon me. May I come in?
Well, I'm sure there are other compartments not in use.
Well, I'm afraid I'll have to make use of this one. And you.
I beg your pardon?
Look, I'm desperate. The police are looking for me, but I'm innocent. When they come into this compartment, you take your cue from me. You do exactly as I want you to.
I shall hand you over. That's what I shall do.
You do, and you'll die 1 second later. Darling, of course I love you. Of course I love you, darling. Kiss me, darling.
Oh, guess there's no murder in here.
You...
I'm terribly sorry. I'm sorry I had to do it. Now, look here. My name is Hannay. They're after me. But I swear I'm innocent. You've got to help me. I've got to keep free for the next few days. All right, I don't blame you for slapping me, but please listen.
You're despicable.
You've got to let me stay here. It isn't just for my sake.
Beg pardon, you two.
What is it, officer?
I'm sorry to disturb you again, but have either of you seen a man come by here the past few minutes?
This is the man you want, I think.
What?
She's joking.
But when I looked in just a moment
He
ago...
barged his way in here and forced me to kiss him. Told me his name is Hannay.
Oh? Is your name Hannay?
No.
It is. He just told me so. He said he's wanted for murder.
I told you I was innocent, too, didn't I? Why do you leave that out?
Your name is Hannay, then?
Of course it is.
You're under arrest, Mr. Hannay, and it's my duty to warn you that anything you say may be used against you.
Officer, may I smoke?
Go ahead.
Want one?
No, thanks.
You know I'm innocent.
I don't know anything of the sort.
No? Well, you seem to trust me.
Do I?
Yes. Yes, you haven't handcuffed me.
If I handcuffed you, then I'd be handcuffed too, and I hate handcuffs.
Oh, well, that's quite understandable.
You couldn't do anything anyway. The door's locked.
Oh, that's quite true.
What did you kill her for?
I didn't kill her.
Oh, come off it. This ain't official. I'm just curious.
Why do you think I killed her?
Oh, well, because you're in love with her.
Oh, that's a strange reason for killing a girl.
Or maybe she was in love with you and you couldn't get rid of her.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, I thought so.
Yes, she was always pestering me. Wanted me to kiss her all the time, tell her I loved her. You know how it is.
No, I know. All right.
Yeah, well, I couldn't even eat a meal in peace. I couldn't take her to the theater unless we sat way in the back row. You know, really, she was always getting me to take her to the zoo. Now, do you realize how many lonely places there are at the zoo where a woman can trap a man?
You don't mean it.
Yes. Fact is, remember, and the night I murdered her, it was... Well, I'll tell you. That was just the last straw.
What happened?
She came to my apartment. I didn't expect her, you understand. I wanted to be alone with my chess set. But she came in. When I heard what she wanted, I couldn't stand it anymore. Everything went red before me. I was blind. I was blind with rage.
Good heavens, what did she want?
She wanted me to take her to the zoo again.
See here. Are you trying to pull my leg?
Of course I am. I told you I didn't murder her.
I'll give up.
Oh, Are we coming to a station?
No. Just slowing down for the bridge.
Huh? Sure you won't join me in a cigarette?
Oh, might as well.
Here you are.
Oh, thanks. Hey, let go.
So long.
Hey, don't jump out there. You'll get killed. Don't jump.
Hold your fire, you fool.
Right, sir.
He's under cover. Sonny is a smart man. Probably crawling from one bush to another on the side of the hill.
I was only trying to shoot when I last seen him,
Well,
sir.
don't do it. I wish those other fools had stopped shooting, too. He's bound to come out in another place.
Well, still and all, sir, I don't see him.
Wait a moment. There he is.
Where?
No, wait a moment. Don't shoot. You see, he's up on the brow of the hill, out of rifle range.
We'd best get after him.
No, wait a moment. Look. You see? There, he's gone. Down the other side of the hill.
We'd best get after him, that's what I'd say.
No, wait. I have a better plan. We'll never catch him that way. He's got too big a lead, and besides, he'll go down the hill on the other side a lot faster than we can never go up on this side.
But what are we to do?
We're going to count on the fact that he's a human being. He'll get tired. He'll get hungry. He's been running around all day, and he hasn't eaten since before he got on that train. He's going to have to sleep somewhere tonight. That's when we'll catch him.
How, sir?
You go round up the others. We're going to stop in at every farmhouse and every barn in the whole countryside tonight.
Aye. Good day, sir. Could you direct me to Alton Sherlock?
Aye, straight along the road and cross the loch.
Thank you.
Are you looking for work?
Yes, I'm a chauffeur.
You'll find no work in Alton Sherlock.
Oh, no big houses around here?
Only Sir Andrews, and he won't be wanting you. He's had the same chauffeur for 40 years.
No, I see. Are there no newcomers around?
Aye. There's an Englishman, a kind of professor.
Professor?
Aye. He lives at Alton Sherlock.
Oh, thanks. I'll try that.
You'll not try tonight. It's 14 miles.
Well, could you put me up for the night?
Free.
Oh, no, I'll pay.
Aye, then. Can you eat the herring?
I could eat half a dozen right now.
Can you sleep in a box bed?
I can try.
2 and 6.
Take it now.
Thank you. Come in.
Thank you.
Woman!
Aye? What is it?
This gentleman will stay with us till the morning. Go make up the box bed.
Very well.
Your daughter?
My wife.
Oh.
You'd best go in with her and see your room.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. This is your bed. Could you sleep there, do you think?
You try and stop me.
You'll be tired.
Oh, I'll say I am.
Won't you sit down, please, while I make up the bed?
Thank you. You been in these parts long?
No, I'm from Glasgow. Do you ever see it?
No.
You should see Suckyhall Street with all its fine shops, and Argyle Street on Saturday night with the trams and the lights and the cinema palaces and the crowds. Oh, aye, and it's Saturday night tonight.
Like to be there?
Aye.
You certainly don't get all those things out here.
No.
Do you always miss them? Or just on Saturday nights?
I don't like to say.
Well, now, I've never been to Glasgow, but I've been in Edinburgh, Montreal, and London. I'll tell you all about London at supper.
My husband wouldn't approve of that, I doubt.
Why not?
Oh, he says it's best not to think of such places and all the wickedness that goes on there.
Then why not listen now? What do you want to know?
Well, is it true that all the ladies paint their toenails?
Some of them.
And the London ladies look beautiful?
Oh, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, but they wouldn't if you were beside them.
You ought not to say that.
What ought he not to say?
Oh.
I was just saying to your wife that I prefer living in the town rather than the country.
God made the country. Come, woman. Get supper for us.
More pudding, sir.
No, thank you. I've been extremely well fed.
Thank you.
You want to look at the weekly paper? It just came today.
Yes, I'd like to very much. Thank you.
You best look at it right away. I'll want it when I come back. I'm going to water the cattle. Woman, get the dishes done. You hear?
Hi, John.
Wouldn't you care to look at the paper?
Oh, no, thank you. I read it this afternoon.
Indeed. I'm surprised. Does your husband allow you to read the paper?
I'd best clear the table. You hadn't told me your name, sir.
Oh, Hammond.
It wouldn't be Honey, would it?
What made you think that?
You're greatly interested in that murder in London. You looked almost greedy reading about it. And you fit the description of the murderer.
What makes you think that he's a murderer? What makes you think that he's guilty?
Is he not?
No,
I want to believe that.
it's true.
Ah, the poor man. Everybody chasing him now. Everybody against him. If he did not commit the murder...
He didn't.
He needs a friend.
Yes. Yes, he needs someone who knows what it is to be friendless. Someone who has warm human sympathy because she has suffered herself. Because she has needed warmth and sympathy herself.
I know too well what you mean, Mr. Honey.
Hammond.
Excuse me, Hammond.
This man they're looking for, you know, I imagine the police are combing the Scottish moors for him. I imagine they're knocking on the door of every house and asking the people if they've seen this man.
It would be lucky for him if someone misdirected them.
Yes. Someone who has sympathy.
Someone who has received sympathy from him.
We're a full 15 minutes late to bed tonight.
We are that.
We've earned twice the money that beggar paid us. Him eating, reading our paper, and keeping us up.
He was no bother, John.
Was he no? You took a fine fancy to that lollybuck, woman.
No, John.
Yes, woman, I know when you're thinking sinful thoughts. And I know a sinful man when I lay my eyes on him.
Please, John, what you're saying isn't true.
Are you coming to bed now?
In a minute.
Why do you keep watching out the window?
Oh, no reason.
Just thinking your sinful thoughts,
No,
eh?
John.
Well, then blow out the candle. Come to bed.
Aye, John. Mr. Honey, wake up.
What is it? What is
There
it?
are cars coming. That'll be the police. You'd best be going.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hurry up and don't let them catch
I'm
you.
ready. I'm ready. I slept in my clothes. I'll never forget you for doing this. And which way do I go?
Here, I'll show you.
Aye, making love behind my back.
John!
I might have known. Get out, woman.
Just a minute.
Yes, and you, sir. Get out of my house before
Aye, go.
And leave you like this?
It's your chance of liberty.
Get out, both of you.
You don't understand. Now, look here. You're all wrong about this. She was trying to help me.
Aye, to bring shame and disgrace upon the house.
She was trying to help me escape from the police.
The police?
Yes, the police. They're after me for murder.
What?
Now they're here. She only came to warn me. I told her about it this evening. Don't let them in, please. Say that I'm not here. I'll make it worth your while.
How much?
£5.
You got that much?
Yes.
Give it to me.
After they're gone.
Give it to me now, or I'll turn you over to them.
Right, here it is.
All right. Get back into the bed. Shut him in, woman. Hide him.
Do not get into bed. I do not trust him.
But he took the money.
I could not resist it. Here, let's open the window and listen.
The Portland Place murder.
How should I know aught of a murder?
You didn't see anybody go by?
Well, no, I might or I might not. Is there a reward?
I believe there is, yes.
That's right. He's asking if there's a reward for you if you get catched.
How much is it?
Oh, blast him.
£300.
He'll argue a bit before he lets him in.
That's little enough for catching a murderer.
Now's your time.
All right, show me the way.
Here. Oh, your jacket's terrible light-colored. I'm afraid they'll see you. Here, you'd best take this black one.
Is this your husband's coat?
Aye, his best Sunday coat. But never mind. They mustn't see you.
But what will happen to you?
Well, I'll say I couldn't stop you.
He'll not ill-treat you.
Oh, he'll pray at me now no more. Go now.
What's your name?
Annie?
Goodbye, Annie. Bless you all the days of your life for this.
The dogs will get him, sir. They've got his scent.
Yes, I know, but they're going to lose it. This Hanny is no fool. He'd go into the lock. Then what good will the dogs be?
That farmer said Hannay was inquiring about the professor out in the Sherlock.
Well, if we lose him, we'll go straight to the professor's cottage.
Hurry. Oh, please, hurry.
How do you do?
You're the professor.
Yes?
Let me in quick.
I don't believe I will. Who are you?
You wouldn't know my name, but I come from Annabella Smith.
Oh. Come in.
Thank you.
Have a chair.
Thank you.
Well, sir, what about our mutual friend, Annabella Smith?
She's been murdered.
Murdered? I'm so sorry, but then in our line of work... Tell me about it.
Haven't you read the Portland Mansions affair?
So that was Annabella. And the man?
I was the man.
Excuse me, someone at the door. Someone not so impetuous as to pound as you did. I suggest that you sit quietly in the far corner so that you'll not be seen from the door. Ready?
Yes.
Gentlemen?
We're the police. Have you seen any strangers about this morning?
This morning? No.
You haven't seen any suspicious-looking bodies?
No.
No one called at the house?
No.
No one looking for a job?
No one at all.
Oh, get rid of them. Get rid of them.
Sir. We're looking for a murderer. We thought he might come here. He mentioned your place, said he might look for a job here.
Then if he's a very wise murderer, he won't come near my house. I'll let you know if he does.
Thank you, sir.
Good day. Well, Mr. Hannay, I suppose I can call you by your right name now. I think the police will bother you no longer.
I want to thank you very much, sir.
Not at all. Now, tell me more about Annabella. Why did she send you to me?
I wasn't even sure it was you. I just knew that it was somebody in out in the Sherlock. She was coming here about some Air Ministry secret. She said it would be smuggled out of the country unless we could see someone in Alta Sherlock first. Some foreign agent is going to take the secret out of the country unless we can stop him.
Did she tell you what the foreign agent looked like?
No. She... Oh, yes. There was one thing. Part of his little finger's missing.
Which one?
Oh, I believe she said it was his right hand.
Are you sure it isn't the left hand?
No, I'm not sure. Why do you ask?
Because it is the left hand. You see?
You?
Yes, Mr. Hannay. I'm afraid I've been guilty of leading you down the garden path. Or is it up? I never can remember.
Why didn't you turn me over to the police?
Because you would tell your story. They wouldn't believe it, I suppose, but they might check it. They just might find that you were telling the truth. That would be very embarrassing to me.
What are you going to do with me?
That's just the point. What am I going to do with you? You're an engaging fellow, Mr. Hannay. I'd hate to hurt you, but you see, I'm just about to convey some very vital information out of the country.
Then Annabella was right.
Oh, yes, Annabella was an excellent secret agent. I often tried to get her to work with me, but she wanted too much money. Well, that's neither here nor there. The question is still, what am I going to do with you? And I'm afraid I know the answer.
All right, let's have it.
I don't think this revolver could be traced to me.
You're going to shoot me?
I'm afraid there's no alternative, Mr. Hannay.
All right.
Don't move. What a pity. He was such a young man.
From Studio One, radio celebrated playhouse of dramatic entertainment, you are hearing Glenn Ford, starring in The 39 Steps, a version for listening by Robert Senadella of the John Buchan novel. Studio One will resume after the customary pause for station identification. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. From Studio One, we continue tonight's full-hour dramatic entertainment. Mr. Glenn Ford stars in Fletcher Markle's production of The 39 Steps.
Woman, I cannot find my hymn book.
Your hymn book? Where did you leave it?
In the breast pocket of my overcoat. It was hanging here.
John, I'm afraid I gave your coat to that gentleman who was staying here that night.
The murderer? You little fool!
Cigarette cases, yes, Sheriff, but I've never seen it happen to a hymn book before.
I've never encountered such a peculiar set of events in all my years as sheriff of out in Sherlock.
Oh, that's not surprising, you know.
The bullet this professor fired stuck in the hymn book, eh?
Yes.
Well, I'm not surprised, Mr. Hannay. Some of these hymns are terrible hard to get through. I've stuck at them myself before now.
Hymns that have helped me, eh?
That's a good one, Mr. Hannay, that's fine. And to think that I've had drinks with that professor, accepted his hospitality. Well, it's a lesson to us all. And how did you escape?
Well, of course, he thought I was dead, and while I was still unconscious, he dragged me into the dressing room. When I came to, I got out of the window and came here. Now, Sheriff, I don't want to hurry you or anything, but oughtn't you to be taking some sort of action? This is serious, you know.
I know.
Well, I mean, if it weren't, I'd never put myself in your hands with a murder charge hanging over me.
Never heed the murder, Mr. Hannay. I don't doubt you'll be able to convince Scotland Yard of your innocence as you've convinced me. I've sent for someone at the police station next door to come and take your statement down.
Thank you.
Were you wishing to see me, Sheriff?
Yes, indeed I was. Do you think I enjoy playing for time with a murderer?
Murderer?
Certainly. Hannay, you're under arrest on charge of willful murder of a woman unknown in Portland Mansions, London, Tuesday last. Inspector, take him over to the county jail.
Aye.
But, Sheriff, you heard my story. You believed it.
Come along now.
It's true, every word of it.
Hannay, we're not so daft in Scotland as smart Londoners may think. Do you think I believed your cock and bull story about the professor? Where's my best friend?
But if the professor didn't shoot me, where did that bullet come from?
That's easy. From one of your pursuers on the moor. Isn't that so, Inspector?
Aye, that's so, sir. I had to shot at him myself.
I demand that you allow me to telephone the High Commissioner for Canada.
A trunk call for a murderer? Too expensive.
Come along
Take
now.
your hands off me. Hey, stop him. Oh, the idiot. Out the window. After him.
Excuse me.
Who are you? Get out of this car.
Oh, don't tell me it's you again, that stupid girl on the train.
Hannay, the murderer.
Listen, they're after me again. You've got to believe me this time. I didn't do it. Now, you get that through your head, can't you? I didn't do it. And unless I'm kept from the police, a vital secret of this country will be smuggled to a foreign power. Now, start this car and drive me to safety.
I will not.
All right, then, I will. Now, let me get in that driver's seat.
No! Help!
Move over.
Help! Help!
What is it, miss?
And this man is a murderer. This is Richard Hannay.
Oh, Hannay. Raise your hand. Oh, you little fool. I suppose you think you've been clever.
Are you an officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, will you please tell your prisoner not to insult me?
You try and stop me.
That's enough, Hannay. You come along with me.
Couldn't you realize that I was speaking the truth in that railway carriage and just now?
I prefer not to talk to you.
All right. But in all frankness, will you put a call through to the High Commissioner for Canada in London and tell him that an enormously important secret...
That'll do now,
An
Hannay.
enormously important secret is being taken out of this country by a foreign agent. Has that penetrated?
Right to the funny bone.
Haven't you any sense at all? Put that call through and refer them to me. Will you do this?
No. Good night.
Beg pardon, miss. But I'd like you to come, too.
Whatever for?
To identify the prisoner formally. I'll take you both to the police station in my car, then I'll drive you back here, miss.
Oh, well, all right, if it's absolutely necessary. Let's get it over with. Isn't that the police station on the corner? You're running past it, officer. Tell the driver.
The driver knows where he's going.
We're not exactly going to the police station, miss.
Well, then where are we going?
Inverary.
Inverary?
Yes, this man is to be questioned by the sheriff principal.
Well, how far is it to Inverary?
40 miles. Keep quiet, her name. I'm sorry.
Isn't the man going the wrong way? Surely Inverary is to the left.
There's a bridge fallen down on that road, miss.
You say you're a policeman. Might I see your badge?
You shut your mouth.
No, I won't. I want to make a bet with you. I'll bet you haven't got a badge. And I lay you 100 to 1 that the man you're taking us to has the top joint of his little finger missing. What about it?
You shut your mouth.
Ha! I win.
Hello? Yes, this is the professor. Yes? You say Hobbs has him. Good. You're sure you saw him taken yourself? Fine. With a girl? Oh, dear me, that's too bad. Why? Well, you great booby, simply because I don't too much mind killing Hannay again, so to speak. But I shall regret very much disposing of an innocent girl.
Go ahead. Tell the young lady who your boss really is.
You shut your mouth.
Yes, I wish he would, too. And, officer, if he doesn't, I hope you gag him.
All right.
I think he's off his head.
All right.
Oh, blast it.
What are we stopping for, driver?
It's a flock of sheep. They're all over the road.
Oh, yes, we never get through them.
Well, can't we go back the other way?
No, I told you the bridge is down.
I'll have to get out and scare them off the road.
There are too many of them. I'll help you.
What about Henny?
Oh, don't mind me.
I'll fix Henny. Miss, how'd you like to be a special constable?
What do you mean?
Handcuffs.
Don't put those things on me. What are you doing?
Come on, Henny, hold out your wrist.
I suppose I must.
No.
Ah, there we are. Now, miss, as long as you stay, he stays. Come on, Bradfield.
Yes.
Well, how do you like being handcuffed to me?
I'll thank you not to talk to me.
You don't think I intend to stay here, do you?
Well, you can't get away as long as we're handcuffed.
Oh, no?
Help!
All right. I'm going to keep my hand over your mouth, and you may as well not struggle. We're going to run for it. All right, let's go. Come on, run. Run! I think we got away all right.
Well, what chance have you got tied to me?
Oh, keep that question for your husband.
You know, those policemen will get you as soon as it's daylight.
They're not policemen.
Oh, and when did you find that out?
Well, you found it out yourself. I wouldn't have known that was the wrong road. They were taking us to their boss, and heaven help you or me if they ever catch either of us again.
Still sticking to your penny novelette spy story.
Oh, no. There are 20 million women on this island, and I've got to be handcuffed to you. Now, look here, I'm telling you the truth. I told it to you once on the train and again this evening. Now I'm telling you for the third time. There's a dangerous conspiracy against England, and we are the only people who can stop it.
Please don't tell me that stupid lie ever again.
All right. Look, I'm just a plain common murderer who stabbed an innocent, defenseless woman in the back not 4 days ago. Now, how do you like that story? I don't know how innocent you may be, but you're a woman, and you're defenseless, and you're alone on a desolate moor in the dark, handcuffed to a murderer who'd stop at nothing to get you off his hands. Now, if that's the situation you prefer, my lovely, have it, and welcome.
I'm not afraid of you.
For all you know, I may murder one woman a week. So listen to a bit of advice. From now on, do every single thing I tell you to do, and you do it quick.
You big bully.
You know, I like your pluck, but I don't like you much. Come on, there's an inn.
Well, what of it?
We're going in there.
Well, what for?
That's my business.
But we're handcuffed.
Come on, shut up, will you? Now, remember what I said. You back me up in every single thing I say or do. Now, has that penetrated your pretty head?
Only just.
All right. Come on now, pull yourself together. Put your hand in my pocket. Come on, put it here so they won't see the handcuffs. Come on. Hello? Hello?
Oh,
My, the young lady's terrible wet.
Well, we had an accident with our car a few miles back.
Oh, then you'll be wanting to stay the night?
Yes.
We've just the one room left with the one bed in it. But you'll not mind that.
Oh, no. Quite the reverse.
Your man and wife, I suppose.
Oh, yes. Aren't we, dear?
James!
Yes. Aye, I'm coming.
James, here's a young couple wants to register.
Aye. Well, here's the book.
I'll away up and light the fire for you.
Will you sign the book, sir?
Oh, innkeeper.
Aye, sir.
Could you get us a large whiskey and soda and a few sandwiches?
And a glass of milk, please.
Oh, yes, a glass of milk.
Aye, sir. I'll do that while you're signing the book.
Good, we got rid of him. I can't write with my left hand, my dear. You take the pen. Come on, go on, take it. The sooner you get used to writing your new name, the better.
Oh, really?
Mr. and Mrs. Henry Hopkinson. The Hollyhocks, Hammersmith.
I tell you, I can't stand this any longer. I'm going downstairs to tell the whole story.
Do you think you can drag me with you?
Oh.
Do you want me to hang for a murder I never committed?
Well, so long as they hang you, I really don't care whether you did it or not.
Can I come in,
sir? Come in. Yes, we were just getting warm here before the fire.
I can see that. I thought you might like this hot water bottle to your bed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You'd like a hot water bottle, wouldn't you, my sweet?
Yes, darling.
Well, good night.
Oh, I say, please don't go.
Why not? Is there anything wrong?
You've got to help me.
What's the matter?
Well, she wants to tell you something, that's all. Now, we're a runaway couple.
Oh, I knew it all the time. You're so much in love. I could see it. Are they after you?
Yes. But you won't give us away, will you?
Of course not. A good night to you both. You'll not be disturbed.
You try anything like that again and you'll get hurt.
All right, you one. Don't rub it in. Look, can't we get these handcuffs off?
I want to very much. In the morning.
Well, why not now?
Because I'm sleepy.
Well, I'm not.
Well, if we got these handcuffs off, I'd have to stay up all night watching you.
Would that be so terrible?
No, I like watching you. If only I weren't so sleepy. Come along, I'm going to bed.
Well, it's going to be a little difficult, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. I'll stretch out.
Well, I'm going to sit up.
Well, you'll have to sit on the side of the bed. Come along. Come on here. We'll both be comfortable.
You're really most inconsiderate.
What are you doing with that hairpin?
Well, I've heard that you can unlock handcuffs with a hairpin.
You're welcome to try.
Don't let me disturb you. Go right off to sleep.
Good night.
Hello?
I'm coming. What is it?
This is a hotel.
Aye.
I suppose you get a few old people this time of the year.
Aye.
You didn't happen to have anyone tonight, did you?
Aye.
They weren't by any chance a young couple, were they?
Them? Two old maids they was, and stale, too.
Could we have a couple of whiskeys and soda?
Aye, I'll fetch it from the back room.
Have you got a public telephone?
Right there, behind you.
Thank you. Out in Sherlock 532.
Queer place, this.
Hello, Professor Jordan. No, it hasn't gone well. The girl handed him over to us thinking we were detectives. We had to take her as well because he told her everything. They got away. Yes, I see. You're going where? Well, good luck, Professor. Goodbye.
What now?
The professor's going to clear out. It's too dangerous with Hannay on the loose. He's warning the whole 39 steps.
He'll be able to get the secret out of England.
Yes. He's picking up our friend at the London Palladium tomorrow. Everything's going to be all right.
Pamela. Good Lord, she's gone.
No, I haven't gone. I'm over here by the fireplace.
What's the idea? How did we get out of these handcuffs?
Well, I told you I'd open them with my hairpin.
Why didn't you run away?
I did, but just as I was going, I discovered you were speaking the truth. So I decided to stick with you.
Well, may I ask what earthquake caused your brain to work at last?
When I left the room and went out on the landing last night, those two men were downstairs and I heard them phoning.
What did they say?
A lot of stuff about the 39 steps. Somebody's going to warn them. How can you warn steps?
Go on.
Well, somebody called the professor as taking the secret out of London. He's picking up someone at the London Palladium today.
The London Palladium. I don't know what a theater has to do with it, but come on, we're going to London.
Quite right, madam. It's true the Air Ministry has a new thing that quite a lot of people are interested
Well,
in.
then, please.
But they're positive that no papers are missing about it that would be of any use at all to a spy.
But I tell you, I'm quite certain. There's a man leaving the country tonight with something.
Since you telephoned from Scotland this morning, we've made the most extensive inquiries.
Well, it's obvious that I'm wasting my time here.
Just a moment, please, miss. There is one thing you haven't told us. Where's Richard Hannay?
I haven't the faintest idea.
I see. Well, you're in the telephone book, aren't you?
Yes.
If anything crops up, we'll give you a ring.
Thank you. Goodbye, Commissioner.
Goodbye. Henry, get a couple of men and follow that girl. She'll lead us to Hannay, all right.
I'm glad you've come. Listen, the professor's in that box up there.
I've been to Scotland Yard. They've refused to do anything. They say there are no papers missing.
Oh, wait a minute. Listen, I've heard that tune before. The music hall. Annabella.
Ladies and gentlemen, with your kind attention and permission, I have the honor of presenting to you one of the most remarkable men in the world. Every day he commits to memory 50 new facts and remembers every one of them.
The same little man. I've got it. All the information is inside Mr. Memory's head.
I don't understand.
Well, don't you see? The papers were borrowed, memorized by Mr. Memory, and then replaced.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Hannay.
Thank you.
Police.
Question,
Come along.
please.
The police. Well, listen. There's something you ought to know.
Come quietly.
Oh, yes, but that man on the stage.
Look here, old man. You don't want to cause trouble and spoil other people's entertainment, do you? Now then,
One
come
at a
quietly.
time, please. One at a time. One question, please.
Now, wait a minute, officer. Mr. Memory. What are the 39 steps? Come on, answer up. What are the 39 steps?
The 39 steps.
Answer me. What are the 39 steps?
The 39 Steps is the name of an organization of spies collecting information on behalf of the Foreign Office of...
It was the professor fired that shot. Come on.
All right. He's still conscious.
We got the man who shot him, sir.
Good. All right, Mr. Hannay. What was it you wanted to ask him?
Mr. Memory, what was the secret formula the professor had you memorize?
Will it be all right, me telling you, sir?
Yes, the professor sent me. I'm the man you're to tell it to.
Big job to learn it. Biggest job I ever tackled. Don't want to throw it away.
It will be quite all right.
The first feature of the new engines, its greatly increased ratio of compression, represented by R1 minus 1 over R to the power of gamma. Angle of 45 degrees. Dimensions of cylinders as follows. This device renders the engine completely silent. Am I right, sir?
Quite right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad.
Tickets, please.
I have it right here. Let's see.
Well,
Here we are.
going to Scotland, eh?
Yes.
Holiday?
No.
Live there?
Unfortunately.
Well, have a good trip, miss.
Thank you.
The diner will be open in another hour.
Oh, I don't believe I want any dinner.
Ticket, please.
Well, I just gave my ticket. Richard.
May I sit down?
Well, of course. What are you doing on this train?
I'm going back to Scotland.
Holiday?
No.
Well, you certainly don't live there.
No.
Richard, Hannah, we're not starting this all over again. They're not after you again.
No. No, this time I'm not being pursued.
Well, what then?
This time I'm doing the pursuing. Come here.
Oh, Richard.
I think I'm going to like Scotland this time.
From Studio One at CBS, you have just heard Mr. Glenn Ford, starring in Fletcher Markle's production of The 39 Steps by John Buchan. Another of the world's great stories from radio's celebrated playhouse of dramatic entertainment. Tonight's script was prepared by Robert Senadella, and the original musical score was composed by Lana Domian and conducted by Alexander Semler. Now again, Mr. Markle.
May a producer identify the principals in tonight's cast? In the foreground,
Richard Hannay
was played, of course, by Mr. Ford, who is currently starred in Columbia Pictures' film comedy, The Mating of Millie.
Pamela?
Was played by Kathleen Cordell.
Annabella?
Was Mercedes McCambridge.
The crofter.
Was played by Everett Sloan.
The professor.
Was John Stanley.
Annie?
Was Miriam Wolfe.
Mr. Memory.
Was Hedley Rennie.
Mr. Hobbs.
Was played by Lauren Gilbert. Frantically active in the supporting cast were Robert Dryden, Neil Fitzgerald, John Merlin, Brainerd Duffield, Alan Devitt, Ivor Francis, Mary Michael, and Louis Quinn. The music hall advertisements were performed by Miss Jean Tye. Next week from Studio One, the return to our microphones of a great American novelist and a great American actor. They've been a very fortunate combination before on this series, and we're sure they will be again. Our story is Sinclair Lewis's provocative portrait of a middle-class businessman whose name was Babbitt. And our star is the magnificent and quite irreplaceable Mr. Walter Houston. We hope you'll be with us. And now until next week, until Walter Houston starring in Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis, this is Fletcher Markle with a good night and thank you from all of us in Studio One.
A program you won't want to miss. That's Report Card, the next production of the famed CBS documentary unit. Tomorrow night over many of these stations, from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Columbia presents a one-hour inquiry into the state of our nation's schools. Be sure to hear Report Card. This is Lee Vines, and this is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week. The Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this is about as nice an adaptation in terms of just the overall writing and performance as you'll find. I have to say that it was great cast. Definitely John Stanley in a little bit of a different role. Here as the villain, Everett Sloan, always a highlight of the Golden Age performances. And another great name in the cast, even though she was only there for a short while, was Mercedes McCambridge. We'll eventually hear from Miss McCambridge. She got her own detective mystery show called Defense Attorney. And she always delivers such amazing performances. Orson Welles called her radio's greatest actress. And high praise, and the more I am able to listen to her work, the more I think Wells definitely was on to something. All right. Well, that will do it. If you like Glenn Ford, you're going to get more of him starting Tuesday, and for the next 3 weeks, we will have Glenn Ford with us for the adventures of Christopher London. And we'll be back on Monday with Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, and then Tuesday, look for the adventures of Christopher London. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/radiodetectives. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.